What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was related to the Nidame? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Gahahaha. Pitiful little mortals, can none of you stand up to the might of the great Kyuubi no Yoko? If not, then go back to your little hovels and wait for me to bless you with death. Roared the giant as it rushed towards Konoha, intent on killing every last human soul that resided within. This is getting us nowhere, muttered a certain blonde-haired villager as he stared sadly at the carnage before turning eyes to the small bundle in his arms. I'm going to have to use the Shikifujin. Then does that mean you're going to use it? Asked a voice from beside him sadly. Yeah, probably. How's his mother? Said the blonde, ignoring the older man beside him to make funny faces at the baby inside the bundle. Comatose. Seems she couldn't handle the stress of birth and Kyuubi attacking at the same time. Said the older man sadly. Make sure you tease her for that when she wakes up, Sarutobi? Said the blonde man, putting on a false grin as he passed the baby to the man named Sarutobi. And make sure my son gets the respect he deserves. With this said, the blonde man made one last sad grin before turning to jump off the railing, only to be stopped by Sarutobi. Before you go, you should at least give him a name. Turning around, the blonde man gave his longtime friend one last sincere smile before saying, Uzumaki Naruto, hero of Konoha. With that said, the blonde man jumped off the limb they were standing on and into the carnage below. Later that night, the Kyuubi was defeated and sealed into the newborn child of the fourth Hokage, who had died, sealing it into the child. His last wish was that the child be hailed as a hero and jailer for the most powerful demon to ever live. This was not to be, as the village instead viewed him as the demon itself and repeatedly attacked the child. The attacks reached such frequency, in fact, that the third Hokage was forced to pass a law that forbade ever speaking about the boy's demon. This, however, did little to sat the villagers' hatred, as is demonstrated by what is happening now. Present day. Leave me alone, cried one Uzumaki Naruto as he ran frantically down the streets of Konohagakure in a desperate attempt to escape the mob pursuing him. I didn't do anything, bastard. You kill our families then call it nothing. We're gonna finish the job the fourth started. Yelled one of the villagers in the mob to a chorus of agreements from the rest of the villagers in the mob. Let's kill I am, yelled another angrily. Ha! Screamed Naruto as he desperately tried to gain speed to get away from the ever closer mob. He had never been able to figure out what he had done to deserve all this torture he went through. Sure, he had pulled a few pranks here and there over the past year, but that wasn't enough to make them want to kill him, he was sure. Was it because he was an orphan? He also thought that was pretty unlikely as well. He had never seen any of the other children at the orphanage treated as he was, so that couldn't be it. It didn't really matter what their reason was. This sort of thing was always happening to him. Usually though, the old man in robes with the cool hat came to save him, but today he had had no such luck, as the old man was out on a mission today. Unfortunately for Naruto, his woes continued to pile up as he had not been watching where he was going and had run into a dead-end alleyway. We gotcha now, ya fox bastard, said the mob's leader, a ratty middle-aged man who had lost a son to Kyuubi. Let's kill I am, shall we? With that said, the man as he and the crowd began charge at Naruto. Is this it? Am I going to die? Thought Naruto, tears forming in his eyes as time seemed to slow down as the mob charged him. Fate, however, had something else in store for Naruto, as at that moment a person who had been quietly observing up until now decided to step in and body flickered into the fray. Now what do we have here? A group of grown men and women attacking a little kid. Here I was thinking that Konoha was above that sort of thing, said the man who had just appeared. At his sudden appearance, all of the villagers stopped for a multitude of reasons. One reason was when a 6.5 foot tall man with a sword roughly as large as he is shows up in front of you, you usually stop running. When that man just happens to look like a shark, you always stop. Well, are you all just going to stand there gawking, or is one of you gonna answer my question? Asked the shark man impatiently. It was nothing stranger, just us trying to finish the job the fourth couldn't, said the rat-like man from before, grinning. Can't have demons running around, eh? No, I suppose we can't, said the shark man grimly before moving through a set of hand seals faster than the eye could see and roaring. Water release, water shark missile technique. Suddenly, much to everyone but the shark monster's surprise, a shark formed from the water of some nearby puddles appeared and began firing water bullets into the crowd. Now then, demons, get lost before I show you what I can do with this sword," roared the shark man. Much to his satisfaction, anyone that could move did move, and soon the only occupants of the alleyway were him, the boy behind him, and the unconscious people who had been hit with his jutsu. Naruto's POV. It's called stream of consciousness, in case you didn't know. Who is this guy? He looks kind of funny, but he's really strong and really nice. I bet he's a shinobi. I wonder if he can teach me to do that shark thing. That would be cool. He's asking me if I'm okay. No one asks me that but the old man and the ramen man. I say yes. He's walking away. No, he can't leave. He's the only person who's been nice to me in days. I have to stop him. End POV. Hey wait, Fishy-san, yelled Naruto as the shark man began to walk off. I wanna ask you something. 1. I'm not Fishy-san. 2. My name's Kisame Hoshigaki, growled Kisame, turning around to face Naruto. What is it that you want? Teach me to do that thing you did, yelled Naruto, latching on to Kisame's chibi style. How about, no, said Kisame, desperately trying to shake Naruto off his leg only to have him climb up to his chest. Please, asked Naruto, pulling out every ounce of chibi cuteness he could. For a minute Kisame thought he might break, but he managed to get a handle over himself when he reminded himself that he was a ninja and couldn't afford anything weighing him down. Sorry kid, but I'm a shinobi, not a babysitter, he said as he managed to pluck the distraught demon container off his chest and drop him on the ground. So maybe next time we meet, but till then, see ya. With that he ran off at a high speed. He ran off, thought Naruto sadly before he got up and dusted himself off and grinned a bit. But he's not going to get away. On that thought, Naruto sniffed the air for a bit before turning in the direction Kisame had run and began to run after him. Maybe I shouldn't have left the kid there, thought Kisame with a bit of remorse before he looked up to check his surroundings. Holy shit, he yelled in surprise as his eyes fell on the kid from before. How did you catch up to me? He asked without slowing down. I'm not giving up till you agree to teach me, yelled Naruto without breaking pace. Damn, I can't speed up or I might blow my cover, thought Kisame as he leered at the child running beside him. The kid does run pretty fast though. No, I can not take the kid with me, no matter how fast he is for his age. Bug off kid, you're annoying me, yelled Kisame at Naruto. No, then we'll just have to see how long you can keep up at that pace, yelled Kisame before turning a corner. If I can't outrun him, then I'll outlast him, thought Kisame. And so the race through Konoha began. 5.5 hours later. Damn it kid, where did you get all that speed and stamina? Said Kisame, rubbing his sore legs as he sat at the ramen stand the kid had demanded to go to when he had finally worn Kisame out. MNF, what the amen? Asked Naruto around a mouthful of ramen. Swallow before you talk, Naruto-kun, said the owner of the establishment to Naruto, to which he only got a nod of understanding. Sorry, said Naruto after he had swallowed the ramen. Like I said though, what do you mean? Listen kid, Naruto. Listen Naruto, most kids your age can't run that long nor that fast, said Kisame before turning back to his ramen and resuming eating it. Well, I do have to run all the time, said Naruto, his face becoming grim although Kisame didn't see it. Your parents work you to death, huh? Said Kisame jokingly after he had finished his ramen. No, I don't have any parents, said Naruto softly, looking down into the broth of his ramen. I have to run a lot because the villagers are always trying to kill me like today. This comment caused Kisame to flinch before he got a sort of pained look on his face. Damn it, now look what I've done. I really should take him with me. He doesn't have anyone to look out for him, and without someone to do that, this incident will just repeat itself. But he's really young. But he's also a really good runner. But that's not enough to not weigh you down. He needs jutsu as well. Then we'll just have to teach him then. But what if he can't learn fast enough? Then we'll just have to make sure he can. Alright kid, said Kisame, slamming his hand against the table to get Naruto's attention after he was sure that the owner of the shop couldn't hear them. I have a deal for you. If you can master one of my jutsus before I leave in 3 days' time, then I'll take you with me when I leave and make you my personal apprentice. Alright, yelled Naruto, happily throwing a fist in the air. Not only do I get to learn to be super awesome like Kisame ni-san, but I get to learn a new jutsu in the process. Hey ni-san? Yeah? What's a jutsu? I have a feeling it's going to be a long 3 days, thought Kisame, sweat dropping before going into an explanation over all things ninja. Hey ni-san, what are you gonna teach me? asked Naruto, bouncing around the shark nin happily as they reached the most secluded part of the river that they could find. Hold still for a minute and I'll show you, damn it, yelled Kisame. Sighing, he flashed through several hand seals, making sure Naruto could see them before holding his arms out to his sides and saying quietly, "Water release, killer water wheels." Naruto watched in awe as suddenly water was drawn from the lake and formed a disc around each of Kisame's arms. Suddenly, with a roar, Kisame swung both arms forward and launched the discs in front of him. The discs proceeded to cut through anything that was in their path. "Wow!" yelled Naruto in shock. "Do I get to learn how to do that?" "Well, if you don't, you won't be coming with me," said Kisame, turning back to Naruto and grinning as he yelled, "So what are you waiting for, hop to it?" Seeing Naruto just stand looking at him confusedly, Kisame realized he had neglected to tell Naruto how to do the jutsu. "Okay, so here's how you do it. First you have to gather your chakra by focusing on it. Then you have to take it and maneuver it into the water, giving you some control over it. Next you have to try to get the water to come to you and onto your arms. Do you follow so far?" said Kisame, pausing to make sure Naruto was keeping up. He had a feeling the kid wasn't exactly the sharpest kunai in the pouch. Seeing, to his surprise, a nod from Naruto, Kisame grinned before continuing. "Okay, now comes the hard part. For the final stage of the jutsu, you need to create spin in the water by circulating your chakra through it in circles, causing the wheel effect while at the same time compressing it with your chakra." "Okay kid, you got it?" asked Kisame again, expecting Naruto to be confused only to be surprised when he still wasn't. "Well, in that case, get your ass in gear and train. You only have 3 days to master this." I Ni-san," said Naruto as he ran over to the river and began practicing. "Hey kid, I'd love to stay and watch, but I kinda got a mission and don't have time to watch you personally. But I am staying in a hotel by the main gate, so come and get me if you get it down," yelled Kisame over his shoulder as he turned to leave. The last thing he heard before he sped off was the sound of the jutsu going out off control and exploding. At least the kid seems to be able to control the water pretty well. I wonder what his natural affinity is. "Don't let me down, kid," muttered Kisame so low not even he himself heard it. Roughly 6 hours later, grunted Naruto as the jutsu backfired again, soaking him, knocking him over and almost crushing his arms in the process. "Damn it, it seems so simple when Ni-san did it, but whenever I start to compress the water it backfires, and if I try to spin it without compressing it first it loses shape and sprays everywhere," the 3-year-old yelled angrily. "There's got to be a trick to it. All I have to do is find out what that is and I'll be home free." With that and a new determination, Naruto jumped up and retuned to his training. "I will never disappoint Kisame Ni-san." 2 days later. It had been 2 days since he had eaten, slept, or even taken a break. Of course, practicing water jutsus made it so you didn't really need a bath, but still it felt kind of funny. "Oh," groaned Naruto as he finally sat down, clutching his lower stomach. That was another thing that felt funny. The area right below his stomach had been hurting for the last 4 hours, and now the pain had become so intense he had had to stop training. If he had had to compare the pain he was in right now, he probably would have said it felt like growing a new organ. "I think that I'm gonna hurl," yelled Naruto as a wave of nausea flowed over him suddenly. Jumping up and running off in the woods so not to contaminate the river he had become attached to as a sort of second home, Naruto suddenly fell to his knees and began to regurgitate water. "Wah, what the hell?" panted Naruto, still reeling from the effort of throwing up a bucket full of water. "Where did that come from?" Suddenly Naruto noticed he no longer felt sick. So checking it off as something he would have to ask his new Ni-san later, Naruto once more resumed training, deciding he had enough energy left to give it one last try. "I wonder if it'll work if I compress the water and spin it at the same time. Well, no harm in trying, right?" thought Naruto as he assumed the jutsu's position. Running through the hand seals, Naruto suddenly began to get a strange feeling right below his stomach again, almost as though something was moving up and… "Oh no," thought Naruto as he realized that he had no ability to stop himself this time. So little Naruto did the only thing he could think to. He opened his mouth. Suddenly, to his great surprise, 2 streams of water shot out of his mouth and began to feed his arms with the water he needed to perform the jutsu. Deciding to go with this development for the time being and determined not to fail, Naruto began to compress and spin the water at the same time while calling out the name of his jutsu. "Water release, killer water wheels." As he roared these words, the water finally began to take proper shape and spin. Looking triumphantly at his two discs, he immediately mimicked Kisame and threw them with all his strength off his arms. He was quite proud, to say the least, when they caused a decimated the surrounding forest to a point far beyond those Kisame had fired. In fact, he was pretty sure that if anyone was in the forest at that point, that they weren't now. "I did it, Kisame, ni-san," he said, falling to the ground with a dull thud, having spent the last of his chakra that last attempt. "I can't wait to show you." With those words he blacked out, letting sleep's gentle hold embrace him at last. 14½ hours later. "I guess the kid didn't make it after all," thought Kisame, sadly looking in the general direction he had had Naruto training in before, adding, "It's too bad, he's living the same childhood I had." Just as was turning to leave, he just so happened to look over his shoulder one last time, and in doing so caught a glimpse of Orange moving towards him over a hill. Even though he wouldn't admit it, Kisame was overjoyed to see the kid running over the hill towards him. "'Bout time, kid, I was beginning to wonder if you were going to make it or not," called Kisame, waving to the running child. "So you got the jutsu down or what?" Yeah, I would never let you down, Kisame ni-san," yelled Naruto, running up to Kisame and grabbing his leg chibi style yet again. "Then show it to me," growled Kisame, stress marking as he tried to get chibi Naruto off his leg. I ni-san," said Naruto, letting go of Kisame and giving him a mock salute before he got into the jutsu's position. Flashing through the required hand seals, he opened his mouth to allow, much to Kisame's surprise, 2 streams of water to leak out and move onto his arms before yelling out, "Water release! Killer water wheels!" Kisame, still stunned by the child's show of ability only one before him had possessed, could only watch as the child performed the jutsu not only with ease but with mastery as well. "So how's that, huh, Kisame ni-san?" asked Naruto, turning back to face Kisame as bouncing around giddily. That was spectacular," stuttered Kisame before he regained himself and said, "Naruto-kun, do you realize what you just did?" I preformed the jutsu you showed me," said Naruto, calming down immediately when he saw the shocked look on Kisame's face. "Exactly," said Kisame, almost unable to hide his excitement. "You just performed a mid-level water jutsu without a water source." Yeah, I've been doing it since I mastered it like that." "What's the big deal anyway?" asked Naruto, glaring at the taller man. "Don't think just 'cause I didn't use a water source means you get off without fulfilling your end of the bargain. I wouldn't dream of it at this point, Naruto-kun. After all, who would give up an apprentice with an ability only possessed by one man before him, that man being the Nidame?" Kisame said excitedly. "You mean you're gonna train me?" said Naruto, looking at Kisame hopefully. "I'd be a fool not to," said Kisame, giving Naruto one of his rare smiles. "So come on, I will help you pack your stuff." "Well, you see about that. I kinda don't have anything to pack. I went by my apartment earlier and someone kinda burned it down." Appalled by this new revelation, it took everything Kisame had to stop from going on a killing spree against the bastards in the village. "Well then, let's get out of here, then I can't stand the smell of bastard any longer," he growled as both man and child turned and walked out of the village into the world. Into the legend of Naruto Hoshigaki. Hokage Tower. Unbeknownst to the two of them, they were both being watched by a single elderly man. So it appears that Naruto has found someone to care for him. Too bad it had to be another village's nin. Think of all the paperwork I have to fill out now," sighed the old man sadly before chuckling. "Just make sure you come and visit me before I die, okay Naruto?" 2 weeks later. Miles away from Konoha, border of grass country. "Water release, 13 pillars of water," called out a rough voice that could only belong to one person. "No fair, Kisame ni-san. You know more jutsus than me," whined Naruto, barely dodging 12 semi-sentient pillars of water only to take the final one to the face. Getting back up bruised and angry but otherwise unharmed from the blow, Naruto spit out some of the water before yelling at his bemused sensei, "This isn't what I thought you meant by training. When you said training, I thought you meant you were going to show me a super cool jutsu, but instead you just start attacking me and making me try to sneak up on you while wearing weights over water." To say the least, Naruto was regretting leaving Konoha, even though it was just a bit. Kisame had fooled Naruto into his own personal training routine, or as Naruto called it, Death Routine Alpha. In fact, Naruto could still remember the day he had made the mistake of agreeing to train with Kisame. Flashback. "Hey Naruto-kun, I got a question for you," said Kisame as they stopped near a river for a break. For some reason Kisame insisted they stay near a river. "What is it, Kisame-ni-san?" said Naruto, slowly looking up from his reflection. "Well, since you're my apprentice, I figure I have to start teaching you soon, so I just wanted to know one thing before I decide how to do it. Do you follow the path less followed, or do you walk the same road as others?" asked Kisame, giving Naruto a very serious look. "What has that got to do with training?" demanded Naruto, happy to hear he was going to be given the opportunity to get stronger soon. "You'll see soon, so just answer the question," said Kisame sternly. Flinching a bit at his scolding, Naruto scrunched up his face and thought before answering. "Well, I guess you meet more friends if you travel with everyone else, but you probably see cooler stuff, so I have to go with the path less traveled," the young boy said, hoping he had given the right answer. Kisame grinned and stood up before making hand seals and saying, "Good answer, Naruto-kun. Your training begins now." Water release. 1,000 raindrop bullets. Needless to say, it went downhill for Naruto from there. End flashback. "You don't have room to complain. You said you wanted to travel the path less traveled, and so I am training you in a way very few sensei do. By attacking you, so you are forced to learn basic battle skills," said Kisame, grinning at Naruto as the smaller boy charged at him over the water. That was one thing he had to give the kid. Even though they had just started training, Naruto had mastered water walking, causing Kisame to wonder if he was training a genius as well as the second's legacy. "I will teach you jutsus, don't worry about that, but they won't exactly be useful if you can't fight," he added before launching 13 more pillars of water. "Then teach me how to fight before you start to kill me," yelled Naruto as he dodged the all 13 this time, only to jump straight into a tree trunk. Getting up in a daze, Naruto quickly found himself under assault by one of Kisame's water clones. Scrambling out of the range of the clone's blows, Naruto panted out, "I can't fight you all hand to hand because you haven't shown me any taijutsu styles." "Taijutsu, Naruto-kun. Taijutsu," sighed Kisame, knowing he was going to have to do this eventually. "Since you really must know, I'm not the best person to go to for taijutsu training, I just fight freestyle." With this he began rubbing the back of his head, grinning sheepishly before saying, "But I could teach you swordplay if you had a sword." "Oh, that's great, I'll just go and borrow one from the nearest tree," yelled Naruto, grinning slightly to himself as his own water clone formed behind Kisame and began to sneak up on him. "Naruto, if you try to distract someone, try not to be obvious about it," said Kisame, chuckling as he swung Samahata around and crushed the Naruto clone. "I am impressed that you copied my technique though. It wasn't that hard," said Naruto, grimacing as his clone was crushed. "You use it so much I eventually memorized the hand seals. From there I just experimented until I got lucky." "That's very interesting, Naruto-kun. It takes quite a bit to learn a jutsu from just seeing it," said Kisame, beaming. "Just don't let it get to your head." "I won't, Kisame-ni-san," said Naruto, barely dodging the Kisame water clone's renewed assault. The clone then simply grabbed Naruto and hurled him into the river. "Good to hear," said Kisame before dispelling his clone and saying, "Now then, Naruto, I think it's time for me to tell you why we have been heading into the grass country." "I've been wondering about that," said Naruto, climbing out of the water and shaking the water off before jogging over to Kisame. Waiting for Naruto by the camp they had made, Kisame began his explanation. "Believe it or not, it's to remedy your lack of a sword." Kisame paused a bit to create some water clones to go and catch something for their dinner, more specifically to catch fish. Kisame loved fish. In fact, he loved fish even more than he loved fighting, and almost as much as he loved Samahata, as Naruto quickly learned. All that he ever ate was apparently fish or the strange fish-shaped crackers. Naruto had tried them once and found that they were also fish-flavored. After eating nothing but fish for the first week, Naruto had begged Kisame to give him something other than fish to eat, to which the shark man had gasped and responded, "How can you say that? Fish are like life, you need them to live." After that, Naruto had begun teasing Kisame, saying that he had so many fish he had turned into one. "Like I was saying," said Kisame, turning back to Naruto, "the man who made my sword is currently there, so we are going to get him to make you a sword." "Oh, look, the fish are here at last." Obviously feeling he had given a thorough explanation of his actions, Kisame ran over to the clone carrying the fish back to them and snatched one out its hands. "Quick, start a fire, Naruto. This fish needs to be eaten as soon as possible." Grumbling something about obsessive-compulsive senseis, Naruto walked over to his bag and pulled out some matches and then walked over to the pile of logs he had set up earlier and began to try and light a fire. Of course, Naruto had never used matches before and almost caught himself on fire several times before he had to ask one of the Kisame clones to do it for him. "Hey Kisame," said he, a bit put off at not being able to properly start a fire. "You are going to teach me basic survival skills, right?" "Nope," said Kisame, simply sitting down next to the fire. "I plan to take care of the main surviving until you're old enough to go to the academy in 2 years." "Academy? I think they had one of those in Konohata. I saw a kid going in there all the time, though I'm not quite sure what they do in there," said Naruto, grabbing one of the fish, skewering it and setting it next to the fire. "I think the old man said he was going to send me there once, but I wasn't paying attention to what he said they were teaching." "Old man?" said Kisame, quizzically mimicking Naruto actions, except he grabbed 4 fish instead of 1. "Who's that, your caretaker or something?" "No, I don't really know what he did, but he seemed really important and always saved me from the villagers. Plus he had a really awesome hat," said Naruto, adding a huge grin at the last part. "I really miss him." "Well, who knows, maybe you'll see him again someday," said Kisame comfortingly. "But back on the subject of the academy, it's the place where ninja in training go to learn the basics. I'm going to be spending all our free time training you in the more advanced skills so you'll have an edge when you start there. By the way, since we're on the subject of training skills, tomorrow I'm going to teach you how to use chakra to increase power in body parts, so make sure you get all the rest you need." After Kisame finished speaking, they both ate their meals in silence as they usually did. Afterwards, Naruto began to run upstream, turning back when Kisame called to him. "Hey, where are you going?" Kisame called after his orange-clad apprentice. "The orange goes as soon as we reach Kusagakure," he decided. "Nowhere, Kisame-ni-san," said Naruto, pausing before continuing to run off. "I just need to clear my head a bit," he called over his shoulder. "Just don't go too far," called Kisame, wondering if he had said something wrong. "I don't get it," muttered Naruto to himself as he walked along the river bank. "I should be happy to have left Konoha, but whenever I think about it, the old man pops into my head. Maybe I'm just a bit homesick. After all, like Kisame-ni-san said, maybe I'll see him again one day." Feeling a bit better with his conclusion, Naruto began to turn to walk back to the camp, only to yelp and jump into the river as a kunai whizzed past his face. "Ah, look what we've got us here," came a feminine voice from the trees. "A lil boy all by himself wander and bout. Just done seem safe, eh sis?" came another voice, this one obviously belonging to a male. "Right, you're bro. I think he needs to be taught a lesson," replied the other voice, giggling a little. "Alright, but one at a time, ya done know if there's someone else with I am," said the rough voice. "I'll go first." As that was said, a huge man in a torn brown vest and pants, wearing a forehead protector with what Naruto recognized from one of Kisame's lectures as a waterfall symbol with a slash through it, jumped out of the trees at him while brandishing a massive axe. "Shit!" yelled Naruto as he dodged the strike, only to be thrown back as the ground exploded from the force of the blow. Getting back up, he was about to yell for Kisame when the man punched him in his chest, throwing him into a nearby rock. "Ey roga dun be damgin I am to much ya know what we could get for I am on de slve market," called the feminine voice as the man, Roga, as he threw his axe at Naruto, who barely managed to dodge. "Damn, I'm gonna be annihilated at this rate," thought Naruto as he dodged blow after blow from the man. "I gotta take the offensive." On that thought, Naruto quickly began forming hand seals and called out, "Water release, killer water wheels." As he said this, twin streams of water shot out of his mouth and went to his arms to form his attack. Launching the twin discs, Naruto was horrified when Roga blocked one with his axe. Unfortunately, for he had not been able to block the other disc and it cut off his arm. It took a few seconds for what had just happened to register in Roga's mind, and as it did, he suddenly let out a cry of rage and pain. "Yaw lil bastard, yaw cut off me arm, I'm gonna kill yaw." "Shit!" yelled Naruto as Roga dropped his axe and charged him again. He tried to dodge the mon's blows but was unsuccessful for the most part. Suddenly Roga grabbed Naruto by the throat and snarled, "Ya may talkin me arm, but I'll be talkin' life." As he began to choke Naruto, his sister dropped out of the trees. "Roga," said she, "make this quick. If he had suman with him, de racket ya maid will be attracting them soon." "Aye," growled Roga as he tightened his grip on Naruto's neck. I can't believe it, I'm going to die, were the thoughts of Naruto before darkness consumed him. Naruto's mind. Naruto awoke to find himself in a sewer-like complex with pipes running all over the place. As he stumbled up, he could only think of one place he could be. Hell, I've died and gone to hell, he muttered, looking around. Hardly, boomed a voice from down the hall. Hell is so much more enjoyable, the voice said almost sadly. WHO's there, yelled Naruto, looking around wildly. Why don't you come here and find out, growled the voice. And be quick about it or you'll die for real. First tell me who you are, yelled Naruto in a panic. I'll tell you when you get in here. So hurry the hell up before you die, you little shit, roared the voice angrily, causing the walls to shudder. Okay, whimpered Naruto before he began walking tentatively down the hallway. Eventually, after what felt like hours of walking, Naruto came out of the tunnels and into a large room. Besides the pipes, the room didn't have many defining features, well, at least other than the giant cage. Naruto, deciding that that was as good a place as any to start searching for the person who had called him, approached it slowly. As soon as he got close enough, Naruto felt a feeling of dread sweep over him, causing him to fall to his knees. Looking up slowly and shakily upwards, Naruto noticed two things. The first and least noticeable of them being the only thing holding the cage closed was a small slip of paper with seal written on it. The thing that caught his attention the most, however, was the fox trapped in the cage. But a simple fox it was not. This fox was the size of a small mountain and had 9 tails. Only one thing went through Naruto's mind at that moment. Kyuubi, snarled Naruto. He would recognize the demon anywhere, even though he had never met him. This was him, the being who the old man said killed his parents. The one everyone said was dead. The one and only, said the fox a little too placidly for Naruto's comfort. Now then, I don't have much time, so I will get right to the point. As you can probably tell, outside you are dying. Now there is only one way to save yourself, and that is using my chakra. Wait, are you saying you just saved me by giving me your chakra out of the kindness of your heart? I tend to doubt that, said Naruto, glaring at the demon. Well, actually, as it is, I would love nothing more than to watch you die horribly. Unfortunately, if you die, I die, and that is something I would very much like to avoid, said the demon, standing up and stretching. Wait, why would you die if I die? Asked Naruto suspiciously. You, my friend, are a dumb ass for to have not figured it out yet, said the Kyuubi almost gleefully. You child are the scapegoat of that pathetic anthill you called home. I don't understand, said Naruto shakily, backing up a bit. Let me spell it out for you then, said Kyuubi, slowly approaching the cage gate. The reason everyone hates you is because you are the little sacrifice that the fourth needed to complete his jutsu. You child are the one I was sealed inside that day so many years ago. No, you're lying, whimpered Naruto. Oh, but you see, I cannot lie, it is part of my nature, said Kyuubi, pressing its face against the gate and grinning like a maniac. But enough on that now, I can torture you mentally later, for now we have to save your pitiful life. As the fox said these words, red chakra began to leak out of the cage and surround Naruto, who began to scream as it consumed him. Now then, go and kill them, won't you? Said Kyuubi, laughing maniacally as Naruto was thrown from his mind. Roga, what's talkin' ya so long? Said the female ninja as she watched Roga continue to choke the boy. I done know he keeps reinflate in his throat, sumo. Jean ma axe all end de lil bugger's life right now, said Roga, dropping Naruto on the ground. Bro, what's with IME's actin' all freaky? Said the female ninja, causing Roga to turn around just in time to take the full force of Naruto's blow in the stomach, causing him to crumble to his knees. I'm going to kill you, Naruto muttered, dazed by the Cubus chakra. Die, he roared as he grabbed Roga's nearby axe off the ground and cut Roga's remaining arm off. Bro, gook, said the female ninja as she ran forward, only to be cleaved in half at the torso. Naruto, if you kill him, do us both a favor and spare his head. We'll need it to collect the bounty with, said Kisame, grabbing the female's head and separating it from the neck with one clean stroke. Ni-san, muttered, coming out of his daze a bit upon hearing Kisame's voice. No, wait, don't kill me, begged Roga, trying to crawl away. Why not? Asked Naruto, staring at the man grimly. All my life people have tried to kill me, and I think I need to fight back. So I ask you again, why should I spare you? I avenue money, said Naruto, looking around wildly for a place to escape to. "We can take that off his dead body," called Kisame from where he was sitting on a rock. A scroll then. "Me and sis stole it and we left waterfall," cried Roga, his face becoming hopeless as he found that there was no escape. "And why can't we take that when you're dead?" asked Naruto, wondering how it felt to kill someone. "I bet it feels weird the first time, after that who knows?" "We it," said Roga, taking his chance. "You'll ne'er find it if ya kill me." "Very well," said Naruto, lowering the axe. "Tell us where it is. If ya go up river a bit y'all find our camp. From there it's a few miles east in a cave," said Roga nervously. "So that's it, right? I can leave?" "No," said Naruto, raising the axe above his head. "You threw your bargaining chip and forgot to secure a route to safety. Now you will pay with your life." The axe came down. That wasn't so bad, thought Naruto as he ran off towards the place Roga had mentioned, leaving Kisame to deal with the bodies. "I wonder if I should tell Kisame ni-san about Kyubi-teme?" "Hey Naruto-kun," shouted Kisame. "When you get back we need to have a talk about your condition." With that he turned back to disposing of the bodies. "Guess I don't have a choice," thought Naruto, grinning slightly. Somehow he wasn't worried about it, he knew his ni-san wouldn't mind. "Konoha, what do you mean he left?" yelled an infuriated silver-headed Anbu at the Hokage. "Exactly what it sounded like I meant," said the Hokage, glaring at the Anbu. "Well, we need to go get him back," yelled the Anbu. "We shall do no such thing, Kakashi," said the Hokage, smiling a bit. "I'd hate to take him away from his new family." "New family? What the hell are you talking about?" yelled Kakashi angrily. "I am simply saying that here in Konoha he was constantly under assault, both mental and physical, from the villagers, and always would have been. Apparently when I was gone the villagers attacked Naruto and then a foreign ninja saved him. Naruto then left with him 3 days later," said the Hokage, shuffling some papers on his desk. "Hokage-sama, how could you just let him walk off with a foreign nin? What if they use him against us?" yelled Kakashi, furious that the Hokage had just let his sensei's legacy walk out of Konoha. "I doubt that he will," said the Hokage, looking at Kakashi. "In fact, the one who took him is none other than Hoshigaki Kisame." "Hoshigaki Kisame, please tell me you did not send Naruto off with a S-class missing nin," yelled, breaking into a panic. "I'll be surprised if he doesn't use Naruto to attack us." "Calm down, Kakashi. I don't know if you've heard yet, but Kisame's status as a missing nin is now null," said the Hokage, a small glint in his eye. "Nulled? How?" asked Kakashi. "Recently, power has been usurped from the former Mizukage by his student. Also, as it turns out, most of the revolts that took place in Mist lately were formed by the new Mizukage in an attempt to wrest control from the former. One of the revolts orchestrated by the new Mizukage was one led by none other than Kisame," said the Hokage, giving a small chuckle before continuing. "Another thing about this new Mizukage, he is much more placid than his predecessors." "How so?" asked Kakashi, still not keen on the idea of sending his sensei's legacy to another village. "Well, for one thing, he has changed the Mist Genin graduation exams to something much less deadly. Also, he has sent peace treaties to all nations. In fact, we just got ours today if you'd like to see it," said the Hokage, pulling out a scroll and holding it out for Kakashi to take. "It's all right," said Kakashi, pushing the scroll back to the Hokage. "But what if his mother wakes up from her coma? Well, then we'd all be in deep trouble, wouldn't we?" said the Hokage, chuckling before turning grim. "But the doctors all say that she will never." The Hokage never finished his sentence as suddenly a Chunin burst through the door and yelled the one thing that the Hokage did not want to hear. "She's awake. Uzumaki Shirane is awake." Grinning underneath his mask, Kakashi turned back to the paling cage and said, "You were saying Hokage-sama? Well, we are here for several reasons," said Kisame, grinning, "but it's mainly because I refuse to be seen training a orange blob any longer." "Hey, take that back, you bastard," said Naruto, launching himself at Kisame, only to have a hard meeting with Mother Earth when Kisame punched him into the ground. "Language, Naruto, language," chided Kisame, grinning like the partially sadistic madman he was. He was actually pretty glad that his apprentice had an ever-regenerating demon in him. It let him increase his training and let off stress at the same time. It was pretty funny though, the kid himself had found out about Kyubi after his teacher, who had noticed the first time they met. He could still remember the conversation about it 2 weeks ago. Flashback. So then Naruto, is there some terrible dark secret you'd like to share with me? Asked Kisame sitting by the fire when Naruto returned scrollless. Of course he knew full well what it was, but still he wanted to see how much faith Naruto had in him. But before you share the sure to be epic news, I have to ask, why don't you have the scroll? Because the bastard lied, grumbled Naruto angrily sitting down opposite of Kisame. Well, it is to be expected, said Kisame nodding thoughtfully. They were only genin, and the likelihood of genin successfully stealing a hidden village's scrolls are almost nil unless the guards really suck at their job. Still, said Naruto hanging his head a bit, there is something I have to tell you. Oh, and what's that? Asked Kisame grinning. Before I tell you, you have to promise not to call me a freak or try to kill me, said Naruto still staring at the ground. I promise, said Kisame thinking, how does he figure I can call him a freak when I look like this? Well, the thing is, Kisame-ni-san, I'm the container for the Kyuubi, said Naruto shrinking back a bit. Really now? Said Kisame, his grin getting even wider. If it makes you feel any better, I already knew. What? Yelled Naruto jumping up and staring wide-eyed at Kisame. How? Well, considering you are always leaking it, it's hard not to notice, said Kisame grinning wider than usual. End flashback. Hey, why do you keep doing that? Whined Naruto, not moving as Kyuubi's chakra healed his bones for the 8th time in the last 2 weeks while a lump formed on his head. Because when I travel too long without fighting someone near my own level, one get bored and in turn I get stressed, said Kisame frowning. But no worries, right? I mean, it's not like you stay injured. It still hurts, yelled Naruto before deciding to change the subject. What exactly do you think I should be wearing? A massive overcoat like you? No, you probably couldn't lift this baby, said Kisame. You can wear anything for all I care, but it should be in a color that doesn't yell, kill me, to the world. How exactly does this say, kill me? Asked Naruto gesturing to himself. Let me answer that question with a question, said Kisame. Is it wise for a master of stealth to wear orange? Don't answer a question with a question, yelled Naruto waving his hands around angrily. While you ponder that, I am going to ask the nice gate guard if we can go inside, laughed Kisame, walking over to the guard who had been watching the scene with strange fascination and handing him some papers. Baka, I'll wear whatever I damn well feel like, grumbled Naruto before he walked over to where his Ni-san had left their belongings and sitting down. Kisame Hoshigaki, said the guard looking at Kisame quizzically. I would have thought you'd have returned to your village by now, but according to your papers you haven't. It doesn't matter, I should have the status of traveling nin, said Kisame turning to Naruto before turning back to the guard and saying, there's a small problem. And what would that be? Asked the guard in a tone that spoke annoyance. Well, my traveling compatriot doesn't appear to have any papers. Saying this, Kisame grinned nervously, hopping to avoid having to beat up any Anbu. Really? Said the guard, leaning over to stare at Naruto. Well, that is a problem, you'll have to hold on while I call my superiors. As he said that, he began to reach for a button before being stopped by Kisame. Hey, don't bother them with that, said Kisame nervously. Shit, I thought I might be able to slip into a smaller village without any papers, but I guess I was wrong, he thought before being struck with an idea. Just hope this works. It's their job, so I don't think they'll be too bothered, said the guard, raising an eyebrow at Kisame's reluctance to have the boy checked. Actually I was just thinking of someone who could clear him, said Kisame, gulping a bit, hoping desperately that his plan worked. Does Saria still live in this village? At the mention of Saria, the guard raised an eyebrow before saying, of course she does, but how, may I ask, do you know her? We used to be on the same joint squad back when Mist and Grass were allies, said Kisame, still sweating and hoping Saria would help them. Really now? Ain't you lucky, said the guard before hitting a button on the below a speaker on the wall beside him and speaking a few words into it. Good news, he said, turning back to Kisame. The Kusakage will be with you in a few minutes. Kusakage, yelled Kisame, stumbling backwards in surprise. Oh shit, I hope she isn't still mad at me. 10 minutes later. Ni-san, called Naruto feebly, I'm bored. Not the time, Naruto-kun, snapped Kisame, causing Naruto to stick his tongue out at him. If she is still mad at me, we're totally screwed, thought Kisame. You know, maybe now would be a good time too. Before the sweating shark man could do anything, a small explosion rocked the area, generating several different reactions in all of the spectators. Shit, yelled Kisame as he began running. Whoa, cool, yelled Naruto, glad his perpetual boredom was over. The Kusakage has arrived, said the guard casually. Kisame, yelled a effeminate voice from the small crater in which a speeding object had crashed moments before. Shortly afterwards, a tall red-haired lady with dark tan skin and hazel eyes, which were currently possessed of a mad fury, burst from the smoke and began to charge after the retreating Sharkman. Shit, yelled Kisame, speeding up considerably. Hey, Kisame ni-san, where are you going? Yelled Naruto, running after his adoptive brother after noticing he was fleeing the scene. Why are we running away so fast? Hey Naruto, Kisame called, not slowing down a bit. Have you ever had a girlfriend? What's that? Called Naruto, looking over his shoulder at the woman that was chasing them. Something to avoid, said Kisame, beginning to sweat when their pursuer picked up speed and began to close in on them. Unless you want to end up doing this again. Several minutes later, Kisame ni-san, said Naruto, staring at his surrogate brother sadly. I want you to know you are the best person I have ever met. Shut up and keep running, Naruto, said the exhausted man. Looking behind him, he spotted their pursuer, right as she grabbed them. Ehehe. Hi there Saria, long time no see. Indeed, it has been a long time, said Saria, glaring holes into Kisame. Almost long enough to make me forget to do this, she yelled before delivering an earth-shattering kick into Kisame's groin. Too bad, squealed Kisame as he slumped to the ground. Now then, started the young woman, dropping Kisame and looking at Naruto amusedly. What business do you have in the village of Kusagakure? Shish, shopping, said Naruto, nervously eyeing his fallen surrogate brother. For clothes and a sword, I presume? She chuckled, looking the boy up and down. Wow, gasped Naruto in amazement, instantly forgetting to be afraid and concerned for Kisame. How did you guess? It wasn't that hard, she said, raising an eyebrow. What do you mean? Asked Naruto eagerly. Easy, said the Kusakage with a grin that revealed teeth wide enough to put Kisame's to shame. First of all, if Kisame is training you, she stopped for a second to kick Kisame in the groin again. He obviously will want to train you in Ken Fujutsu, which would be difficult if you didn't have a sword. Secondly, she paused a moment to look at his attire for a moment, grimacing. No self-respecting shinobi would be caught dead wearing a bright orange anything. What do you mean? Asked Naruto. Didn't Kisame, she stopped again to kick Kisame in the groin again as he began to regain his focus, teach you anything about being a shinobi? You bet he did, said Naruto, striking a thumbs-up pose in the air he had seen a person do in the street once. Konoha. Somewhere in Konoha, a strange man froze in the middle of the street before jumping in the air, yelling about flames of youth being ignited, earning him even more stares than he had already been getting. Back in the grass country. Never do that again in front of me, said the Kusakage, horrified at what the boy had just done. Why not? Asked Naruto, falling from his pose. Just don't, yelled Saria. Fine then, said Naruto, pouting, but I still think it's cool. Naruto, help me, gasped Kisame, reaching out for the boy. Frankly, it looked pitiful. Oh, shut up you, yelled Saria, letting go of Naruto and trying to kick Kisame in the groin again. Try is the key word. As she reared her foot back for the mighty blow, she was surprised when suddenly she felt someone come up and pull her other leg out from under her. I won't let you hit Kisame ni-san again, yelled Naruto. Does this kid really think he can stop a cage? Thought Saria, grinning as suddenly she flipped in the air and landed behind Naruto. Too bad, kid, but you can't beat me. He does have spunk though, Saria-chan, said a man appearing in a puff of yellow. Joya's dono, said Saria, turning to stare wide-eyed at the burly newcomer. What are you doing here and how did you find us so quickly? Where are you, manners? Said Joya's, ignoring the Kusakage's questions, much to her annoyance. You forgot you guests. Wah, ouch, yelled Saria as a pain rushed up her body from her ankle. What the hell? She said, lifting up her leg to inspect the source of her pain, only to find Naruto hanging onto it with his teeth. Looks like someone takes being an ankle biter seriously, laughed Joyas as Saria began to try and shake the small child off. While you deal with that, I must revive my student from his stupor so that I may exchange words with him, said Joyas, walking over to the still dazed shark while forming some hand seals. Wake up, you brat. Water release. Frozen mind jutsu. As soon as he said this, Kisame suddenly howled in pain and jumped up, holding his head. Glad to see you could, Joy, holy $. Looking down as calmly as he could in his pain, he was not surprised to see a blob of yellow and orange latched to his ankle. Just like Kisame, he thought, grinning like his student was known to. Good, I might have some fun with him. Konoha, the third Hokage, wasn't scared. Hokages didn't get scared. So what if in 3 hours he was going to have to tell one of the most powerful nin Konoha had ever known that he had let a formerly S-class missing nin walk out the door with her child? So what if he had to tell her that the village he was likely taking the child to was known for being insanely brutal and that her child would likely be killed by his classmates? He was the Hokage for Kami's sake. He was smart enough to be absolutely terrified. I need to leave, he finally decided. I think the counsel telling her will soften the blow. He muttered to himself before thinking, then she'll kill them, hunt me down and proceed castrate me. Suddenly he heard a huge racket outside his door. Someone appeared to be demanding that they be allowed to see him. Another someone seemed to be demanding they stop where they were, and another someone seemed to be yelling in pain. Suddenly the door was ripped of its hinges and one of his anbu was thrown out the window opposite of him. "Oh Sarutobi-kun," someone said in a sing-song voice as suddenly the noise outside stopped and a deathly silence ensued. Deathly, how ironic. Kusakage's office. Things are not looking good, thought Kisame, his eyes darting around the room he was in nervously. And Kisame was right, things were, indeed, very bad. Not only was he chained to a chair in the same room as two people who were, in all likelihood, out for his blood, but his adopted brother/apprentice had been chained to the ceiling to prevent further injury to the two people's ankles. "He reminds me of you when you were young," said Joyous finally. "Always biting people. At least his teeth ain't as sharp, right?" said Kisame, trying to lighten the mood. "Shut your mouth," growled Saria fiercely, causing Kisame to laugh a bit. "Are you really that mad at me?" said the shark man, grinning happily. "I mean, it wasn't that bad. Leaving me hanging in a tree while you escaped mist wasn't that bad?" The Kusakage roared, tearing up a bit. "I wanted to go with you," she added in a whisper. "You two can discuss your past later, for now we must attend to business," said Joyous, reaching up and undoing the chains binding Naruto to the ceiling. "No, hey, wait," yelled Naruto as he realized what was going to happen once the chains were undone. "What?" said Joyous, undoing the last binding, causing Naruto to drop to the floor head first. "Oh, now I see," he said, turning to Kisame. "You'd think being your student he would land on his feet. Well, I've only had him for a few weeks and in my opinion he has made fantastic progress," said Kisame indignantly. "We'll have to see later, won't we?" said Saria, looking at the child nursing the bump on his head with a sad, almost longing, grin. "But for now, could you leave for a bit, Naruto-kun?" "No way," yelled Naruto, jumping up and pointing a finger at her. "You won't get Kisame ni-san." "I won't let you." "Naruto-kun," said Kisame grimly, "why don't you go look around town for a bit while I talk to these two?" "But ni-san," started Naruto, only to be halted by Kisame holding up his hand for silence. "Don't worry, Naruto-kun," said Kisame, grinning at him. "If they try anything I'll just beat them up and we'll leave." "All right," said Naruto, brightening up instantly and running to the door. "I'm going to go look around town now, bye ni-san." "He's so cute," squealed Saria as soon as he left. "Indeed," said Joyous, grinning, "but as always duty calls," he said, turning to Kisame, frowning, "and I think it's time you told us what you've been doing since you left the mist." "Kusagakure. Wow," said Naruto, running about in excitement. "I've never seen so many plants. That's the reason we're known as the Hidden Grass Village," said a lady who had stopped to watch the boy's antics. Upon hearing another person's voice behind him, Naruto froze, preparing for the incoming blow. Seeing him stiffen up, the woman began to wonder if she had said something wrong. "Are you all right?" she asked, walking closer to him. "No, I didn't do anything, please don't hit me," whimpered Naruto, falling into the fetal position. "Hit you?" said the woman, a bit stunned. "Why would I hit you?" Naruto just whimpered a bit and muttered something as he curled up into a tighter ball. "What was that?" said the woman, leaning closer, not caring anymore that she was now surrounded by a crowd of curious onlookers. "Hey Kenny, what's going on over there?" said a short, pink-haired girl to the man whose shoulder she was riding on. "Eh? Where?" said Kenny, stopping what he was doing and listening to the girl on his shoulder. "Over there," said the pink-haired girl, jumping off his shoulder and running over to a crowd of people. "Hurry up, Kenny, I bet it's a fight." "A fight, eh? Well then I guess I should go join in," said Kenny, laughing manically and charging into the crowd. "Hey you bitch, why did you have to go and make the poor kid cry?" yelled one of the onlookers. "Yeah, people like you shouldn't be allowed to exist," yelled another. "Leave the poor child alone," yelled one more person. "I didn't do anything," the woman said, waving her arms defensively. "I just said a few things to him and he started whimpering and got into the fetal position. God no, not again. I thought people were going to be nice to me in other villages. Instead they just get in crowds to kill me here too," thought Naruto, thinking that this was just another mob that wanted to kill him. "Hey, what's up with this? There ain't any fight here," roared a large scary man with spiky black hair wearing an eye patch over his right eye. "What the hell's wrong with you bastards forming a group like this and not getting a good fight going?" The villagers in the group were surprised by this mon's sudden appearance and words. Some of the ones closest to him jumped back in fear. Finally, one of the men in the crowd found the courage to speak up. "Well, you see sir, this lady was messing with that child there." He paused and pointed at Naruto. "And we wanted to help the poor child. Lotta good that's doing him," said the giant, grinning wildly. "I mean, listen to him whimpering about not wanting a mob to kill him." Mob?" stammered the woman beside Naruto, taking a step back in surprise. "We're no mob. That's not what he thinks," said a little girl who had suddenly shown up beside Naruto and was poking him with a stick. "Hey Kenny, he seems really wimpy for a boy." "Yeah, I mean any good man would be itching to fight this many people at once," exclaimed Kenny, walking over to the two children to examine the boy. As he got closer, his eye widened in surprise and his grin widened even more. "I think we'll take him with us, Yachiru." "But why should we?" asked Yachiru, jumping up onto Kenny's shoulder. "He's so weak." "Maybe he is, maybe he isn't," said Kenny, lifting Naruto up onto his other shoulder and walking out of the crowd. Only Kenny noticed when Naruto seemed to loosen up a bit. I wonder what's up with that," he thought, frowning a bit. Suddenly one of the men from the men called out after them, "Hey, how do we know we can let you take that kid? We don't even know who the hell you are." Turning around, Kenny gave the most maniacal the people in the crowd had ever seen. The name's Kenpachi Zaraki, also known as the Cyclops of the Hidden Mist. "Konoha, oh my head," groaned the third Hokage, sitting up and immediately remembering the situation he was in. "Crap, I have to get out of here before Shirane gets me." "Too late, old man," came a voice that to most would sound angelic, but to Sarutobi like the devil himself, herself in this case, had come to take him to the afterlife. "I'd like you to know that the only reason you're alive is the fact that I need you to tell me what happened to my son and why in the hell he isn't in the village," said Shirane, ending in the fearsome voice that the third suspected would have made Satan pass out in fear. Well, you see Shirane, we didn't think you were going to wake up, so," started Sarutobi. "So you sent him off with a goddamn S-class criminal," finished Shirane angrily. "Well, he's not a criminal anymore." The third Hokage chuckled nervously. "Oh yes, well, excuse me. S-class killer," yelled Shirane into the elderly mont's ear. After a few seconds her features softened a bit and she quietly asked the question Sarutobi had been dreading. "Does he know he has a family here?" Sighing, Sarutobi shook his head. "No. Arashi said that it'd be too dangerous for him." "Any particular reason he was trusting enough to leave town with a complete stranger, especially one like Kisame?" asked the heartbroken mother, hanging her head. "That boy has never been truly cared for," admitted the third, slumping down. "I wish I could have done it myself, but..." "Don't worry, I understand," said Shirane as tears dripped down her cheeks. "I also understand that he was persecuted instead of getting the thanks he deserved. The way I understand it, Naruto is better off in Kisami's hands," said the Hokage, trying to cheer the broken woman in front of him up. "From what I understand, he inherited a very interesting ability." "And what's that?" asked Shirane, though Sarutobi could tell she didn't care about her son's abilities. She cared for what most mothers care for, her son. "Well, he seems to have inherited the Nidame's ability," exclaimed Sarutobi. "Isn't that neat?" "What?" yelled Shirane, her misery put aside for the moment. "Like I said," said Sarutobi happily. "He has inherited the ability to use water jutsu without a water source." And the council still let him leave?" asked Shirane, stunned that the bloodline-loving bastards in the council hadn't immediately tried to start a clan using the boy. "Didn't tell them," said the third, smirking. "They didn't deserve to keep that boy." "Well, I guess you're right then," Maybe he is better off with an insane swords master," said Shireen, happy that her son had avoided a fate few would want. "The only thing I don't get is how in the world he's related to the Nidame." "Well, that's the thing," said Sarutobi, holding up a finger and grinning. "You aren't related to the second. You're related to Kisame." At that moment every person in Konoha was crippled by hearing someone yell. "What? Kusagakure, did you hear that, Yachiru?" asked Kenpachi, turning to the young girl on his shoulder. "What do you mean, Kenny?" asked the pink-haired girl as she continued to poke the unconscious boy next to her. "Hey, what are we gonna do with him, Kenny?" "Well, I hadn't really thought of that yet," said Kenpachi sheepishly. "I suppose since we need to see the Kusakage to deliver our message anyway, we can ask her what's wrong with the kid." "Hey, look, he's waking up," squealed Yachiru, dropping the stick she had been using to poke the boy with and jumping over to Kenpachi's other shoulder. "Is that you, old man?" muttered Naruto, looking up at the sky sadly. "Thanks for saving me again." "I'm not old, damn it," yelled Kenpachi, dropping Naruto and almost causing Yachiru to fall off. "I'm only 24. Wah, stop, Kenny, you dropped him," yelled Yachiru, jumping off Kenpachi's shoulder and running over to the dazed boy. "Hey, are you still alive?" she asked, producing another stick and poking Naruto with it. Getting no response, she started jumping up and down on the boy's stomach while yelling random ways to tell someone to wake up. Suddenly Naruto reached up one hand and motioned for the small girl to come closer. As Yachiru eagerly leaned in, she could just barely hear the blonde whisper, "Quickly, I need ramen." "So that's what you've been doing all these years," said Joyous, frowning. "From what you're telling me, we will have to take extra precautions to make sure our Jinchuriki is kept safe from this cult." "A squadron of Anbu is already on it," said Saria passively before once again frowning. "Now that we know what you've been doing in your off time, we have more present matters to discuss." "And what's that?" asked Kisame, grinning as Saria's face turned red at his feigned ignorance. "You know damn well what it is," she yelled, lunging at him only to have Joyous grabbing her out of the air. "I think," said Joyous in an aggravated tone, "that you should tell us why we shouldn't kill you to honor our alliance with the Mizu." "There isn't any reason, Joyous-sensei," said Kisame, frowning. "I just thought that you might overlook this one. If that's it, then I am afraid that we will have to look after our people before we honor our relationships," said the Kusakage, any emotion gone from her voice. "Kisame Hoshigaki, you are now under arrest for treason against Mizugakure." As she said this, 10 Anbu burst in through the window and surrounded Kisame. "I see. If that's how it is, then I guess I'll have to fight then, Kusakage-sama," said Kisame, standing up and unwrapping Samahata. "Be prepared, I'm not like I used to be. I learned that the day you left," said the Kusakage, pulling a 3-part staff out from under the table. "I told you, you can ask the Kusakage for ramen when I drop you off, damn it," yelled an aggravated voice from the other side of the door, startling all of the people in the room. "An argument about ramen? Don't tell me he's back already," thought Kisame, knowing he would never escape if he had to cover Naruto as well. "But that other voice seems familiar too. Well, if we're going to the Kusakage, I might as well ask my niece-san if I can get some, you one-eyed freak," yelled another voice. "One-eyed freak? Oh god, don't tell me it's him," thought Kisame, groaning. Suddenly the door burst open to reveal a very angry Kenpachi, a very happy Yachiru, and a very hungry Naruto. "What the hell?" said Kenpachi, looking at all the people scattered around the room before his eyes finally fell on Kisame. "Kisame, you bastard, you started a fight and didn't invite me." "Kenpachi-san, I am glad you're here," said the Kusakage, regaining her composure. "We have captured Hoshigaki Kisame, an S-class criminal in Mizugakure, and we're just about to kill him as per request from your village." "Execute him? Why the hell would you do that?" asked Kenpachi, drawing his sword, which Naruto noted had a worn and rather blunted edge, before he continued. "Didn't you get our message?" "Ken-chan, don't be silly," said Yachiru, drawing her own sword, which was basically a pink katana. "We're the ones who need to deliver the message." "Oh," said Kenpachi, his grin fading into a sad frown. "Then I guess we don't get to fight." "What the hell are you doing here?" yelled Joyous, his patience wearing thinner every second he had to deal with these new arrivals. "We're here to tell you about the change in Mizu's leadership," said Kenpachi, looking at Kisame out of the corner of his eye before continuing. "The tyrannical reign of the Sandame Mizukage has ended and Hoshigaki Dagon has taken his place as the Yondaime Mizukage." As a result, all shinobi placed under missing nin status as a result of his efforts to remove the former Mizukage from power have been reinstated. One of these people is currently surrounded by your nin, just so you know. We finally won? Said Kisame, dropping Samahata for the first time in his life. I think I need a drink. Here, said Saria, pulling several bottles of sake out from under her desk and tossing them to everyone in the room sans Naruto, Yachiru and Kenpachi, much to his dismay. Today's just been full of surprises, said Joyous, drinking as much of the bottle as he could in one gulp before grinning out of the side of his mouth. I seriously didn't know you drank Saria Dono. Later, after all the sake was gone. So Kisame, said Joyous, throwing the last bottle of the sake out the window. With the nasty business of killing you out of the way, I had to know. Why in the world did you risk coming here? Simple really, said Kisame, grinning as he finally relaxed in the chair. I am a master of Kenjutsu and my pupil is currently swordless. Then why didn't you go to a simple store? You know I don't forge weapons anymore and I have no more left to give him, said Joyous sadly. Well, Joyous-sensei, you made only 5 swords if I remember correctly. First you made Kusanagi, which is currently in the hands of Orochimaru. Next you made my own sword Samahata. After that you made the Raijin, which was wielded by the Nidame from whom Naruto is apparently descended. Kisame paused a second as everyone in the room, sans Naruto and Yachiru, picked their jaws off the floor. After you had done that, you made 2 more swords. The first, it is said to have been made using the power of the Shinigami and was called Zanjetsu. Rumor has it that the Shinigami thought the blade was too powerful, so he took it for his own. The second blade was said to have been Samahata's sister and was called Dakubibu. Oddly enough, they say this is the only blade you have left in your possession. Suddenly Naruto was acutely aware that Joyous was grinding his teeth in anger. Are you telling me you honestly want me to give this boy? Snapped Joyous, pointing to Naruto, the Dakubibu. Yes, sensei, that's exactly what I am saying, said Kisame, grinning a bit. Geez, I wonder why he's so uptight all of a sudden. No, I won't let him do it, said Joyous angrily. Dakubibu has never let anyone touch her and I'll bet money that she won't let this kid do it 1 inch. Hey, if this Dakubibu lady thinks she can beat me, then I crush her into dust. Believe it, yelled Naruto, pumping his fist into the air. Let him do it, Joyous, said Saria amusedly. Let's see how long his confidence lasts when he's having Dakubibu's poisons pumped into his veins. But, do it now, yelled Saria, angrily pounding the table, causing it to crack. Yes, Kusakage-sama, said Joyous, pulling a scroll from one of his sleeves. As he opened the scroll, he bit his thumb, causing a small amount to fall onto the middle of the scroll. There was a large puff of green smoke, and when it had cleared, there was a strange sword laying in the floor. Wow, said Kisame, looking at the odd sword. Now I know why they call it Samahata's sister blade. They look so similar. Indeed they did, but instead of having scales like Samahata, Dakubibu was covered in what appeared to be scorpion stingers. The biggest difference was in the hilt, as instead of a normal one with a skull, Dakubibu's hilt was shaped like a scorpion with a straight hilt. Naruto was, for the first time in his life, at a loss for words. The sword was, simply put, awesome. Sweet, yelled the hyperactive boy, immediately grabbing the sword, ignoring Joyous's cry of panic. Suddenly everyone in the room noticed Naruto turn a deathly pale before he collapsed on the floor. Naruto, yelled Kisame, jumping up before Joyous appeared in front of him and punched him in the gut. Sorry Kisame-kun, but I warned you, he said, slinging Kisame over his shoulder. Saria, get some Anbu to call in the cleanup crew before the poison spreads too far. Got it, frowning sadly. I didn't think the poor kid would go for it after what I said. Damn, hey Ken-chan, what happened to Aka-kun? Asked Yachiru. An unfortunate incident, said the Cyclops of the Hidden Mist, walking out the door with a little less luster than when he walked in. Shit, I hate seeing kids die. What happened? Naruto asked nobody as he woke up to find himself staring at a red sky. You wanna know? Asked a voice Naruto later described as an angel who was in her time of month. Maybe not, said Naruto, standing up and scanning the room for the source of the voice. Behind you, you dumbass. Hurry up or I'll kill your ass now, said the voice, getting angrier with each word. Turning around, Naruto came face to face with what he could only think of as the scariest and yet most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She was tall with dark skin and dark green hair tied above her head in a ponytail. Her eyes reminded Naruto of that paint that was labeled poison green in the store. Her lips, well, Naruto decided to skip those as he felt she was getting impatient. She was dressed in an outfit that reminded Naruto of that dancer he had seen when the old man had taken him to a carnival from Suna. Think like a genie. The oddest thing about her, however, was the fact that she had a scorpion's tail. "Well, are you done inspecting me, Neon Boy? Or would you prefer me to strip?" she asked, tapping her foot. "No thanks," said Naruto, waving his hands frantically. "Don't make it sound like it wouldn't be a treat, you little pervert," she said, clenching her teeth to reveal instead of normal canines she had fangs. "No, that's not it," said Naruto, getting extremely angry at being called a pervert. He had seen those books his Ni-san read at night and he had almost thrown up when he had. "And don't ever call me a pervert again." Naruto couldn't help notice the look on her face change completely as he said his last sentence. Slowly it changed from an evil, going to kill you, face to a strange evil, I'm gonna hug you till you bleed out your eyes face. Suddenly the woman jumped forward and began to squeeze Naruto into her ample assets, causing him to blush profusely. "Ah, see, you are a pervert cutie." All Naruto could think at the moment was, what the hell, and, am soft. Kusakage's office. "Alright, now we need to destroy the boy's body and reseal the sword as it's retracting its poison," said the medic Nin in charge of the cleanup operation. "Sir," called one of the other medics frantically. "The type of poison in the boy's body has changed. Instead of killing him, it started giving him immunity to the other poison." "What's that? There's no way that could happen, the boy should be dead by now," said the leader. "What the hell is going on here?" "Oh, how could I stay mad at a cute little Jinchuriki like you?" said the woman, letting go of Naruto and staring at him with a huge grin on her face that reminded Naruto of the grin that Kiba's sister would give Kiba whenever she picked him up from the playground. Lots of love with a bit of predatory gleam mixed in. "I hope you don't kill me for asking." Naruto noted that she just grinned even wider and that her tails were pulling him closer to her, the latter causing him to sweat nervously. "But who are you and why did you decide not to kill me?" "Me?" she said, pointing to herself. "I am the one they call Dakubibu." "Hey, you have the same name as that sword that I grabbed before I came here," yelled Naruto, pointing at her. He's kind of dense." "Oh well, that just adds to the cute factor of it all," thought Dakubibu happily before drifting into wondering if everything about him was small besides his cute factor. "I hope not." Kusakage's office. "This hasn't ever happened before," yelled Joyous in excitement. "So what's the big deal?" asked Kisame, having finally recovered enough to stand. "Does it mean he could live?" "Better than that," yelled Joyous, dancing around the room. "It means that not only will he be immune to poisons but also that Dakubibu may be accepting him as her wielder. As for why I didn't kill you, it's because..." The sword spirit paused for a moment before shrugging and replying simply, "Well, it's because I think you're so cute." "Oh well, that's nice," said the blonde, trying to edge backwards. "You're supposed to say thanks for the compliment, you brat," Dakubibu yelled, punching Naruto over the head. Thanks," groaned Naruto, nursing his head. "That's better," she said, punching his shoulder playfully. "But enough with the fun, we need to get to business." "What business?" asked Naruto, easing away lest he be hit again. "Simple stuff really," said the sword, dragging Naruto back with her tails, being careful not to sting him. "I have decided to be your partner." "Meaning?" "Meaning you get the privilege to wield someone as beautiful as me," she said, twirling around. "And the only thing we need to do now is seal the deal." "Seal the deal?" asked Naruto, wondering if he had to do something humiliating or if she was just going to hit him again. "How?" "Don't worry, I'll do all the work," she said happily, drawing him even closer with her tails. Suddenly Naruto noticed her lips were slightly green. "Just remember to open your mouth." Without any further warning, she locked lips with the Jinchuriki. "Holy shit," yelled Naruto, suddenly sitting up and hitting his head against Kisami's. "Oh damn it, who hit my head?" he yelled, jumping up and looking around the room only to see Kisame nursing his head. "Oh god, Ni-san." He was cut off as Kisame grabbed him and pulled him into a hug. "From now on I won't let you come to any more harm," said Kisame softly. "Ni-san," muttered Naruto, reluctantly returning the embrace. The only thought that went through his head before he passed out again was this: "I can't believe she stole my first kiss." "Alright Naruto-kun, don't forget to visit sometime," said Joyous, grinning widely and clasping Naruto's hand in his own. Bending forward a little, he whispered in Naruto's ear, "I don't know why, but I think we'll see some great things from both you and Dakubibu." "You got it, old man," said Naruto, giving the older man a thumbs up. "And Dakubibu says to tell you that she can't wait to finally do what she was meant to after all these years." "Well, then you tell Doku-chan that she better not let you get killed or I'll melt her down into scrap," said Joyous, ruffling Naruto's hair. "I'd like to see the old man try to melt me," Dakubibu yelled in Naruto's mind. "And how dare he think that anyone could possibly kill you with both me and Kyuubi in you? Ha, you can bet that I'll never use Kyuubi's power to win my fights," Naruto said indignantly. "Ah well, isn't that funny considering not only do I heal you every time you get hurt, but I'm the only reason you beat that fat bastard in the forest," called the Kyuubi, causing Naruto to jump. "What's the matter, Naruto-kun?" asked Joyous, concern evident in his voice. "Oh, nothing," said Naruto, looking away lest his eyes give something away. "Well, I guess it's your business then," said Joyous, frowning. "I can't blame him for not trusting me enough to tell me about Kyuubi. I just hope Kisame does something about the huge road sign of a chakra signature before the enemy finds him." "See ya, old man," said Naruto, walking off towards where Kenpachi and Yachiru were waiting. With Kisame and Sarya, an uncomfortable silence filled the air around the two former lovers as both tried to think of something to say to the other. "I guess this is goodbye again, Kusakage-sama. So you're leaving me again," said Sarya sadly. "Why do you keep doing this?" "You know why," said Kisame, turning away from her. "You are the Kusakage and I am a member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. And you know that doesn't matter," yelled Sarya, tears forming in her eyes. "Just a few words from either of us and it could change." "You know it isn't that," began Kisame, turning around. "Damn it, Kisame, it could be," she yelled, tears flowing down her face. "I can renounce my Kusakage title, and I'm sure if you asked your uncle he would let you become a shinobi of grass. Why don't you consider it?" As she said this, she suddenly ran forward to embrace Kisame. Time seemed to slow down as Kisame pondered accepting her offer. "A shinobi of grass, huh? That doesn't sound too bad actually. I'm sure Naruto would be happy here and I could be with Sarya." "Maybe," a voice flooded his mind. "Kisame, I can't protect the mist anymore. Take Samahata and shrug off all the hatred, and please protect Mist in my stead." "Brother, I will never break my promise to you," thought Kisame as he dodged out of the way of Sarya's embrace. "Sorry, Sarya-chan, but I have to fulfill a promise I made to my most precious person," said Kisame, walking away to where the rest of the group was waiting. "Damn it, Kisame," muttered Sarya as she fell to her knees. "Don't you see that Toryu wanted you to be happy even if that meant leaving the mist?" "All right, are the two of you ready to go to the Mist Village?" asked Kenpachi as the two self-proclaimed siblings approached. "Of course, let's go," said Kisame, grabbing Naruto and making a run straight across the fields. "Before I change my mind." Something's wrong with him, he seems heartbroken," said Kenpachi as he ran after Kisame. "I wonder what happened back there." Several days and several hundred miles later. "Kisame-ni-san, are we there yet?" asked Naruto for the 400th time since they had left Kusa. "Ken-chan, are we there yet?" asked Yachiru for what also seemed like the 400th time since they had left Kusa. "I told you already we are not there yet," screamed Kisame at Naruto. "Actually, Kisame, we are," said Kenpachi, grinning, pointing to the docks that they had arrived at. "I guess that you're even stupider than when I saw you last. Kenpachi-san, if I was still a missing nin I would kill you right now," yelled Kisame, drawing Samahata and pointing it at Kenpachi. "It's not too late for you to try," said Kenpachi, drawing his sword as Yachiru jumped off his back and ran over to where Naruto was standing. "Actually," droned a short and fat little man in a purple suit who had appeared on the scene all of the sudden. "It is too late to fight if you want to go back to Mizugakure. Nord Dono, how nice of you to come and pick us up," said Kisame, not taking his eyes off Kenpachi for a second. "Damn it, fatty, why the hell do you have to get in my way?" yelled Kenpachi at the smaller man. "Well, you see, if one of you kills the other, then that makes you a missing nin again. Also, Kisame-san, the only reason I'm here instead of the Anbu is because I retired from the service and am now the ferry master, so here I was and there where sure I could handle you," said the man named Nord before he turned to Naruto and Yachiru. "How nice to see you again, Yachiru-chan, though I don't believe I have met you, friend." The name's Naruto Hoshigaki, the most powerful future member of the Seven Swordsmen. Believe it, yelled Naruto, pumping his fist into the air. Hoshigaki, said Nord as Yachiru punched Naruto in the face. No way, Aka Teme. I'm the best swordsman here, yelled the pink-haired girl, drawing her blade. Nah, yelled Naruto, drawing Dakubibu and lunging at Yachiru, only to have her punch him in the gut. Idiot, you need to get that idiot fish and my brother to teach you how to do something besides swing wildly, said Dakubibu in Naruto's mind. Now children, said Nord, pulling a small orb from his pocket and putting on a mask he pulled out of his shirt collar. If you're gonna be like that, I guess you'll have to be asleep the whole trip. As he said this, he crushed the orb in his hand, causing it to explode, sending a purple haze across the area they were in. Well, Kisame and Zaraki are the same as always, he said, staring at the still battle-ready forms of the two sleeping swordsmen. And it looks like their students are the same way, he said as he noted that both Naruto and Yachiru were still standing in battle-ready stances. Too bad the boy doesn't seem like he's had much training in anything about the ninja arts. Hey, you fat son of a bitch, how dare you insult me like that? I'm the future leader of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, yelled Naruto, causing the plump man to jump. Wah, how are you still awake? You should be out like the others, said Nord, dodging a swipe from Dakubibu. I put enough knockout gas in that thing to put out an elephant. Didn't know that knockout gas counted as poison, said Dakubibu happily. Actually, stuff like that hasn't ever affected me, asked Naruto, continuing his assault at the stubby man. The only thing it does to me is make me feel kind of funny. Hold on, kid, said Nord, appearing behind Naruto and grabbing his arms. If you're still awake, that's fine, but instead of wasting time fighting me, why don't you enhance your skills? Enhance my skills? Yelled Naruto, struggling against Nord's grip only to find that he couldn't move. What's that supposed to mean? Good lord, he's almost as thick as Kisame when he was a child, thought Nord, sweat dropping. No training. Training, yelled Naruto, calming down almost instantly. I love to train. Come on, old man, teach me something really cool. Well, okay. But first help me get these guys onto the boat over there, said Nord, releasing Naruto and grabbing Kisame by the collar and pointing to a small ferry by the docks. Damn, I never expected him to calm down so easily at the mention of training. Hey old man, I got Yachiru Teme and Kenpachi-san onto the boat, so hurry up and teach me, yelled Naruto from the boat's stern where he was standing. Holy crap, he's fast, thought Nord, sweat dropping. Let me get the boat out to sea first, then I'll get right on it. Hurry up, Naruto whined. I need to get stronger really quickly. A few hours later, on the waters surrounding the land of water. So what you're saying is that you want me to pump chakra into an umbrella, said Naruto, raising an eyebrow at the so-called exercise. That's exactly what I am saying, said Nord, handing one of the many umbrellas he had pulled out of a scroll. And you have to open the umbrella with it. And what exactly is the point of this exercise? Asked Naruto, pumping a little bit of chakra into the bumbershoot. Wow, he yelled when the umbrella exploded. God, I can see my leftover umbrella collection drying up already, thought Nord, sadly handing Naruto another umbrella. Listen, you have to open it without blowing it up, which will happen if you put too much into it. But if you don't put enough into the job, then it won't open at all. That's easy, said Naruto, pumping more chakra into the umbrella only to have this one explode as well. Or not. No boy, yelled Nord, tossing another umbrella to Naruto, who was lying on the deck exhausted. You have to push it in little by little and fill each separate section. But it blows up before I can finish, whined Naruto, getting up and getting another umbrella. That's why you had to do it quickly, said Kisame, snickering as he watched his brother blow up this umbrella as well. Nord was right, this is fun to watch, he thought. Flashback. God damn you, Nord, yelled Kisame, jumping through the floor and grabbing the fat man. I told you no more sleeping gas. Boom. It was the only way to stop you, said Nord, ignoring the explosion as though it had never happened. Wait, what the hell exploded? Asked Kisame from on top of the mast where he had jumped in fright. Never mind that, said the ferry master, waving a hand. That's just poor Naruto blowing up another of my umbrellas. I see, said Kisame, coming down off the mast. But why, pray tell, is he blowing up umbrellas? Chakra control, said the man simply. He'll never do it at his level, not to mention with Kyuubi in him. said Kisame looking at the disgruntled boy yelling at his former umbrella. Yes, I am well aware of that, said Nord stroking his goatee. But it's kept him occupied. Well, shouldn't we stop him? Asked Kisame beginning to walk towards Naruto who had blown up another umbrella. You know, before he blows his hand up. Probably, said the man behind him. But watching him try is so much more fun. I guess that's why I always listen to Nord, thought Kisame smiling. God damn it, thought Naruto looking down at his hands where they were charred from the explosions. I can't do it. I guess Kisame ni-san will be pretty disappointed in me. What's the matter, kid? Asked the fox rumbling with laughter. Finding my power a little hard to control. How pathetic, you weakling. I can't help you with this one, Naruto, said Dokubibu, her voice retreating back into the back of his mind. Sorry, ha 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 ha. The fox was roaring with laughter now. Even that bitch of a sword has left you and, what the hell? Suddenly Naruto could have sworn he heard Kyuubi fall into some sort of liquid. That's when he felt it, the feel of Kyuubi's chakra being drawn into his stomach. As he felt the power recede, he noticed a new feeling rush into him, a strange feeling of serenity. Then sounds filled his head, relaxing sounds like oceans and rivers. Suddenly he knew he could do it. This is cake to what I'll have to face if I want to be the strongest swordsman, thought Naruto grinning. So I guess I'll just have to trample this challenge into the ground. Believe it, with all the will he could muster, Naruto tried to force his chakra to do as he wished, but instead of the chakra resisting like Kyuubi's had been, this chakra bended easily to his every whim. Well, this might be easier than I thought. Forcing all his chakra little by little into the umbrella, Naruto noticed it begin to open. Good, just a little more in. There, yelled Naruto as the umbrella burst open, astonishing both Nord and Kisame. I did it, and just in time too, said Kenpachi, startling everyone on board the boat. Cause we just reached the shores of the water country. Really? Asked Naruto, running over to Kenpachi and jumping onto his shoulder like he had seen Yachiru do. Over there, said Kenpachi, pointing to an island a few minutes away. Now get off my shoulder, that's Yachiru's place. Okay, yelled Naruto excitedly, jumping off Kenpachi's shoulder and running over to Kisame. Hey, Ni-san, is this where you live? He asked Naruto eagerly. It's where we both live now, said the shark man, grinning. Welcome to your new home. Welcome to the hidden mist. Whoa, yelled Naruto in excitement as the group reached the docks. The mist is so thick here I can't see the tip of my own nose. That's why it's called hidden mist, said Kisame, taking a deep breath. It's the only truly hidden village of all the hidden villages. It's so awesome, yelled Naruto, running off into the mist only to have Kenpachi grab him by the collar of his shirt. Let go of me, I gotta explore, whined Naruto, struggling against Kenpachi's grip. No chance, y'all little punk, said Kenpachi, lifting Naruto up to look into his eyes. Afraid you're gonna have to ride on my shoulder with Yachiru till we get into the city. Throwing him onto his shoulder, the Cyclops took off towards the center of the island. Better hurry, Kisame, or we'll lock y'all out, he yelled. As if you would ever be faster than me, yelled Kisame, happily running after the group. Well, so much for goodbyes, said Nord, grinning at the eagerness of the group. Naruto Hoshigaki, he thought with an even wider smile, turning and walking back to the boat. I expect to see great things from you. Hey, Aka-Aka-kun, whispered Yachiru excitedly to Naruto a few minutes later. Isn't Ken-chan's shoulder great? I mean, it's so comfy up here and you don't gotta run around or anything. It's okay, I guess, muttered Naruto, hanging on for dear life. But when it comes to great rides, Kisame ni-san's leg is the best. Really? Questioned Yachiru, looking thoughtful for a while. Do you think Fuka-kun will let me rid him when we get back? No way, said Naruto, grinning. I'm the only one who can ride ni-san. Damn, said Yachiru, slumping over in defeat. A few more moments passed before Yachiru spoke again. Hey Aka-Aka-kun, do you think you'll be bigger than me when we grow up? She asked, switching shoulders to sit on the one Naruto was on. Definitely gonna be way bigger than you, said Naruto, grinning. Then can I ride you when we grow up? She asked innocently. Sure, Yachiru-chan, said Naruto, before noticing that Kenpachi's whole head had turned red. Hey Kenpachi ni-san, are you okay? Why yes, no problem, stammered Kenpachi, trying to hold in his laughter. Damn, I have to bring that back up when they're older, he thought, grinning as he imagined all the terrible things he could get them to do by blackmailing them. Life is good. Gates of Mizugakure. For the first time in his short life, Naruto was truly and wholly at a loss for words. Before him stood the mighty gates and walls of Mizugakure. I think the word you're looking for is beautiful, sweetie, said Dokubibu in his mind, and indeed the gates were beautiful. The structure seemed to be made out of a murky crystal that appeared to absorb the mist just as it absorbed their gazes. Naruto was sure that if the sun had come out and hit the structure, he would have simply fallen on his knees and cried right there. Tourists, said Kenpachi, grinning at the boy's reaction. Can't wait till he sees the Mizukage monument. Aka-aka-kun, yelled Yachiru in the dazed boy's ear, snapping him out of his trance. You can't stare at them all day or we'll never get in. All right, muttered Naruto, breaking his eyes away from the beautiful gates. As the group of four approached the gates, a lone masked kunoichi appeared in front of them. Kisame, the nin yelled, lunging at the fishman, who was smiling from ear to ear. I am going to kill you, she yelled, producing a small dagger from a pocket in her flak jacket. Ah, hello Oni-san, said Kisame, punching the woman in the gut as she charged him. I didn't think you'd come to greet me. Suddenly 30 more shinobi and kunoichi jumped out of nowhere, causing both Naruto and Yachiru to jump. And you brought the family, said Kisame, using Kawamari just in time to avoid the hail of throwing weapons that bombarded his former position. Time to go, whispered Kenpachi, sneaking out of the fray and heading towards the gates. Hey Kenpachi ni-san, Naruto suddenly said, causing the man to cover the blonde's mouth and make a hushing sign. Pulling the hand off his mouth, Naruto whispered, Hey Kenpachi, who are those people? People who hate your brother a lot and can do many painful things to both of us if they notice us. Kenpachi said, handing some papers to the guard at the gate. Ah, Kenpachi-san, said the guard loudly enough to get the whole group of nin's attention. Glad to see you're back. Ehehehe, right? Laughed Kenpachi, sweat dropping as the group began to draw many weapons. Well, I think I'll talk to you later, the Cyclops said, taking off into a run. Fucking bastard, he thought as the whole group of nin charged after them. Hey Ken-chan, why are all those people chasing us? Asked Yachiru, staring back at the mob following them. I thought I was done being chased by mobs. Naruto whined, clutching onto Kenpachi's shoulder. Well, you see, there is a very simple reason those guys are chasing us, said Kenpachi, ignoring Naruto's pleas for sanctuary. You see, when the coup was taking place against the Sandaime, all of us in the Seven Swordsmen joined the coup and were exiled. Now, back there are the people who were benefiting from the Sandaime's tyranny. As you may expect, they aren't too happy with us for bringing about his end. But Ken-chan, you're part of their village now, won't they be kicked out as traitors? Asked Yachiru. See, that's the thing. I'm not technically a mist nin again, said Kenpachi, changing his course to head towards a large tower in the distance. See, while I'm not a missing nin anymore, I have to be reinstated to become a mist nin again. Then you better run faster, cause they're gaining on us, said Naruto, recovering from the shock of being chased again. You want faster? Asked Kenpachi, grinning wildly. You got it. Picking up his speed, Kenpachi quickly took to the rooftops, and soon the pursuing group of nin were nothing but spots on the horizon. How's that for speed? Pull over, muttered Naruto. I need to throw up. Don't be a baby, Aka-aka-kun, yelled Yachiru, happily patting him on his back. I bet we get to run that fast later. The thought made Naruto puke. Mizukage's office. It had not been a good day for Hoshigaki Dagon. First he found that his niece had burned his favorite shirt. Next he comes to his office and finds out he has 4 piles of paper to do today instead of the usual 2. To top it all off, his nephew had come through his window only moments before. Kisame-san, he said, staring at the former missing nin. You are going to pay for that, right? No time, Dagon-sama, said Kisame, bowing politely. Quick, reinstate me as a mist ni before Dara gets here. Dara? Said the Mizukage, raising an unexcited eyebrow. Why, what's she doing? Trying to kill us again? Yelled Kenpachi, jumping through another window. I wonder if you're breaking these on purpose, said the Mizukage, eyeing the 2 children that jumped off the newcomer's shoulder. Land. Thank Kami, it's land, yelled Naruto before running over to the window and throwing up out of it. Your boy ain't used to real speed, said Kenpachi to Kisame, who could just frown slightly. Mind if I ask who this young man is? Asked the Mizukage, walking over to the dazed boy. Here, take this, it settles the nerves, he said, offering Naruto a few pills. Thanks, said Naruto, swallowing them. I'm Naruto, he said after a moment, turning around and looking at the man before him. He was pretty much a mirror image of his Ni-san, with the only difference being he was slightly shorter and had red skin instead of blue, and he was wearing a very floral shirt and orange shorts. Nice shirt. Thanks, said Dagon before shuffling over to his nephew. I suppose you think you should be a mist nin again, eh? He said before pulling a stamp out of his sleeve and stamping a huge red admitted on the shark's forehead. You want one Kenpachi? He asked, turning to the other man while Kisame desperately tried to rub the ink off his face. I'll pass, said Kenpachi, backing away. Your loss, said the man, returning the stamp to his sleeve. Anything else you guys need? As long as you keep your stamps in your sleeves, grumbled Kisame, glaring at the older shark. What'd you say, Kisame-kun? Asked the elder Hoshigaki, revealing another stamp that said deceased on it. I said that we need to register these kids as our apprentices, said Kisame, sweat dropping. These kids, he said, looking back and forth between Naruto, who was still recovering from his hurlings, and Yachiru, who was playing with the bells in Kenpachi's hair. You're a dumbass, aren't you, nephew? He said, pulling out a stamp that said dunce and stamping Kisame and Kenpachi with it. Hey, my kid has the same ability as me and the Nidame, yelled Kisame, wiping the ink off his face again. I got nothing on mine, besides I've been training her for as long as I can remember, said Kenpachi, glaring at the mark on his forehead. If I remember correctly, you couldn't even remember the plan on our first assassination attempt on the Sandame, said Dagon, grinning. So I was sure I could get by with just killing everyone, said Kenpachi, blushing and scratching the back of his head. Just trust us on this, Dagon-sama, said Kisame. After all, my kid has already gained the privilege of wielding the legendary Dakubibu. Really now? Said Dagon, surprise evident in his voice. Well, that is quite the achievement if the rumors are true about her killing all her wielders. She said it's cause I'm cute, said Naruto, causing everyone to raise an eyebrow and Yachiru to giggle. What? She didn't kill you because you're cute, said Kisame, dumbfounded. She says all the guys before wear big sweaty hulks of flesh, and she doesn't like something as offensive as that, said Naruto as Samahata began to make a strange cackling sound. Also, she says that she didn't want to end up like Samahata. He continued, causing both Samahata's cackling to stop and Kisame to glare at the sword. Well, enough of the happy-go-lucky stories, said Dagon, pulling out another stamp that said someday and stamping both Yachiru and Naruto with it, causing their whole face to be covered. With that, both of you are now apprentices to Kisame and Kenpachi and are as such officially adopted by them. Sweet, yelled Naruto, pumping his fist in the air. Now I get to live with Ni-san. About that, said Kisame, scratching the back of his head and grinning. I don't think you can live with me, Naruto. What? Asked Naruto, his grin disappearing. Well, you see, Naruto, my house is underwater and you can't breathe underwater, said the shark man. But where will I live? Yelled Naruto, panicking. Don't make me live on the streets again. Again? Said the Mizukage, raising another non-existent eyebrow. I'll explain later, said Kisame, sending his uncle a look that said, don't push it. Fine then, said Dagon, turning back to Naruto. The kid does bring up a point though. Obviously we can't leave him on the streets, but due to the recent influx of immigrants we don't have any more housing. Why not have him live with someone else then? Chimed Yachiru happily. Yeah, said Kenpachi, setting the girl on the floor. He could live with one of the other swordsmen. The only swordsmen here right now besides you two are Zabuza and Raiga, said Dagon, pulling two folders off his desk. And I'm not even letting Raiga's apprentice stay with him. Well, I don't want him staying with Zabuza, said Kisame, frowning. That guy would probably kill him. I can't let him stay with me and Yachiru, said Kenpachi before the pink-haired could even bring it up. My house ain't big enough. Then there's only one person left, said the Mizukage, grabbing another folder off his desk and handing it to Kisame. Scanning it, the monster of the hidden mist just glared his uncle. You're kidding, right? He said, handing the folder to Kenpachi, who raised an eyebrow. I'd be better off leaving him with Raiga than her. It's your only choice other than leaving him with Zabuza, said Dagon, taking the folder back. Don't let me go back out onto the streets, yelled Naruto, latching onto his Ni-san's leg. God, I'm going to regret this, said Kisame, hanging his head in defeat. Are you sure there aren't any vacancies? He asked, only to hang his head again when the Mizukage nodded. Fine, he can live with her. Well, I will send a messenger to her immediately, said Dagon, clapping his hands together, causing an Anbu to jump through his final window. I need to get them to stop breaking the windows, he thought before turning to the Anbu. Take young Naruto over there to the Shihuan Manor and give this letter to Yoruichi-chan. Right away, Mizukage-sama, said the Anbu, saluting before grabbing Naruto and disappearing, much to the wannabe swordsman's chagrin. I'm so sorry, Naruto, thought Kisame, crying in his head. I never meant for you to become a pervert. Now then, Yachiru, why don't you go visit your friends? Asked Dagon, grinning at the pink-haired wonder. I'm sure they've missed you. Okay, said Yachiru, running out the door. Bye, Ken-chan, she called as she ran off. Now that that's been taken care of, do you have anything to report? Asked Dagon, immediately taking a serious posture. Of course, said Kisame, soundproofing the room. Shihuan Manor. Hey, put me down, yelled Naruto, angrily beating on the Anbu's mask. I want down. Fine then, said the Anbu, dropping the boy unceremoniously on the ground. We're here anyway. Here? Asked Naruto, looking in awe at what could only be described as the biggest treehouse he had ever seen. The manor itself looked fairly normal. The odd thing was that it appeared to be wedged between two massive trees. It's awesome, he yelled. Glad you think that way, said the Anbu, because this is where you'll be living from now on. God help you. Sweet, yelled Naruto, running to the front door with the Anbu in tow. Be quiet for a sec, would ya, kid? Asked the Anbu, knocking on the door. Yoruichi-sama, I have a missive from the Mizukage. There wasn't a sound for a few moments before the sound of things breaking and someone falling downstairs. Damn it, he knows better than bothering me this time of day, grumbled a voice on the other side of the door, with the sound of locks being removed. The door opened to reveal a tan-skinned woman with purple hair and a massive glare. Did I mention she was naked? Naruto did the only thing he could think to do. He fainted. What's wrong with him? Asked the purple-haired beauty, staring at the fallen boy. Not sure, said the Anbu, looking away before he died from blood loss. But Mizukage-sama told me to deliver him and this, he said, handing her the message before disappearing. A note, eh? She said, looking at the envelope suspiciously. I wonder what he wants. Hey, Soifun-chan, come down here real quick, she called, causing another series of crashes before a black-haired child appeared in front of her. Your orders, Yoruichi-sama? The girl asked, saluting sloppily. I told you plain old Yoruichi is fine, said Yoruichi, ruffling the girl's hair, causing her to blush. Do me a favor and drag this kid inside and put him somewhere. Yes, ma'am, said Soifun, grabbing Naruto by his legs and dragging him inside. Don't call me ma'am, it makes me sound old, she said, getting a stress mark. Now let's see what the old man wants, she thought, opening the envelope and scanning the letter within. Dear Yoruichi-chan, this is Naruto Hoshigaki, the apprentice of Kisame Hoshigaki. Currently this boy has nowhere to stay, so I have assigned him to live with you and Soifun. I know that you have enough room in that mansion you call a house, so don't even try to say you don't. This is my official decision and it's not changing. Have fun, Hoshigaki Dagon. P.S. Put on some clothes, I don't want another pervert of your scale. So he wants me to babysit, eh? Said Yoruichi, grinning. This is gonna be so much fun. So if what you're telling me is true, why are all in grave danger? Said Dagon, staring out his window grimly. We'll have to step up training. Luckily they don't seem to know I have the 6 tails in me, said Kisame, tapping his new forehead protector. Indeed, said Dagon, staring at the oncoming storm clouds. I want you to train those kids to the fullest starting tomorrow. As soon as they are ready they will join the academy. Looks like a hurricane is coming. Konoha, you're not going after them? Asked Sarutobi in surprise. No, said Shirane, packing another bag. I think it's a bit late for me to show up. I don't think he could really blame you for being in a coma, said Sarutobi. He's a bit young to understand, said Shirane, her blonde locks falling in front of her face. Maybe when he's older I'll visit. Where are you going to go then? Asked Sarutobi, taking a long drag on his pipe. Home, she said before walking out the door. 6 years later. Current head of the Hoshigaki clan and current Mizukage Hoshigaki Dagon surveyed the village he was charged to protect. What was left of it anyway? My god, I don't believe that something so small can cause so much destruction, he said, a tear coming to his eye as he gazed at the paperwork on his desk. Those things are a menace, he screamed as he pulled out a stamp that said mutilate on it and started stamping papers wildly. What the hell was I thinking, letting them get ninja training at the academy? Flashback. Mizukage-sama. Mizukage-sama, yelled a flustered Junin as he jumped in, breaking the Mizukage's window again. It's terrible, they've done it again. What? Said Dagon, hastily throwing the sake he was drinking out the window. Who's doing what? It's Naruto and Yachiru again, said another man, walking straight in through the door with nary a knock or a hello. The image the man projected told all in the room why he had not been stopped. The man had wild crimson hair with bright yellow eyes and stood a good head over Dagon, whose clan prided themselves in being some of the tallest people in the world. Other than a loose-fitting pair of crimson baggy pants and some sandals, the man wore nothing. At his sides rested two sick-looking screw blades. Overall, Dagon felt he had earned the name Reaper of the Hidden Mist. We should kill them quickly, lest they finally cause a revolt, he said, drawing the two screw-shaped swords, one red the other green, and brandishing them with strange ease. I would be happy to do it. Irith and Totara are lusting for those two's blood. Actually, Mora, I would like them both to come in alive, said Dagon, and in one piece, he added when Mora grinned. Ah, but Mizukage-sama, whined Mora, falling to his knees. I haven't gotten to kill in a month and I need blood. No means no, snapped Dagon, almost crying at the thought that he was running a village where basically all the people wear like this. Why don't you go train Role for a while? Fine, said Mora, standing up and sheathing his swords. But when you kill them I want to be informed. I still remember that whole spray starch incident. With that he ran out the door and leapt down the stairs to the ground floor, causing the secretary to scream. Weird, I didn't think I had a secretary, said the Mizukage, pulling another bottle sake out of his sleeve. The only guys down there are Anbu guards, said the forgotten Junin, sweat dropping. Anyway, he said, turning to the older man, we need to do something about those two. Mora and Role? I always thought Role was fine, but you're right, tonight I'll kill Mora. Sir, I meant Naruto and Yachiru. They need to be stopped, said the Junin, raising an eyebrow. Why, what have they done? Questioned Dagon, looking down to the paperwork. Oh, I see. And so he had sent them to the academy to spend their free time. Lord, what a mistake that was. Now they simply broke out of the double whammy torture room, as Yachiru had put it, and caused more trouble than before. Perhaps we should kill them, said Dagon to himself as the one and only Naruto Hoshigaki broke through his window and landed beside him. Help me, old man, he whispered, drawing Dakubibu in anticipation. It's gonna be an awesome fight. Let the heads roll and the masks break, yelled Dakubibu in his mind, punching air. Naruto-kun, did you start? Was as far as Dagon got before Nine Chunin lunged through his remaining windows, breaking them all. Scratch, there's no question, you just did it to start a fight with the Chunin. Yeah, and I plan to beat the living shit out of all of you guys' asses, yelled Naruto, brandishing Dakubibu wildly. My god, he's changed so much, thought Dagon with a bit of pride. Looking Naruto down, a person could tell a very large difference indeed. Naruto had trashed his orange jumpsuit in favor of a gray GI. On his feet he wore a pair of gray boots with heavy padding at the bottom. On his hand he wore a pair of dark blue gloves that stopped his chakra from combining with Dakubibu's and creating her potent poison. In fact, if I have my way, he might be on the way to being the clan head someday, thought the Mizukage, nodding sagely. Well, old man, you gonna fight alongside me? Naruto asked eagerly. Ah yes, the biggest change in his being, he was now exceedingly belligerent, more so than Kenpachi-sama said. Naruto, you can't just go starting fights like this, said Dagon, waving the Chunins off. What I need to know is why you aren't with Yachiru. Usually you guys are always together. Yachiru was being a wuss today. She said she wanted to take a test at the academy and then looked at me funny when I said I wasn't going, said Naruto, glaring at the Mizukage for ruining his fun. I don't understand why she would want to take a test when there's fights to be had. Well, this is the Genin exam, said Dagon, raising an eyebrow when Naruto waved him off and grunted. And you get to fight the rest of your class. At those words Naruto's head snapped up and his eyes widened. Seriously? He yelled, shooting out the door. Crap, I don't give a shit about being a Genin, but if there's a fight then I am there, he thought, running through the streets, knocking over several stands. I wonder who I'll be fighting. Ninja Academy. Now then, students, as you all know, we will be taking the Genin exams today, and began the teacher, looking out on the sea of eager faces before he was hit in the head by an exploding door. Let the fights begin, yelled Naruto, hefting Dakubibu to point at the others in the room. Do we have to fight him? asked one of the students as all but 10 of the people in the room cringed at the thought of having to fight the Hellhound of the Mist. No, the Neo swordsmen have all been assigned to fight each other with the exception of Haku, who we feel is the only one who can hold back. Makes ya feel good, don't it? Said a strange blonde who was wearing, oddly enough, mime paint, leaning over to the girl and grinning. They tryin' to say you're the weakest one of em. No, they're saying I am the one with the coolest head, said Haku, glaring at the boy indignantly while pulling out her blade, the old decapitator. But that doesn't mean that I won't try to kill you, Pyro. Why, Haku-chan, I thought we were friends, said Pyro, sticking his tongue out and jumping back as the decapitator slashed where he was before. Hey now, he said, tossing a few shuriken at her, we should wait till the matches start. Actually, Pyro, this says that you and Haku are fighting each other in the first match, said Naruto, leaning over and staring at the chart in the teacher's hands. Why don't we just let them continue, Boro-sensei? I don't see what's wrong with that, but can we take it outside at least? I don't need bodies piling up during a simple genin exam. We are in the era of the Yondaime Mizukage, said Boro, blowing a whistle signaling the start of the match. Pyro Terracona vs Haku Momochi. Immediately Haku swung the massive decapitator at Pyro, causing him to jump back before he ran to the ring that was placed inside every classroom in mist just in case one person wanted to kill another. Hope this lasts long enough for me to work up a sweat, said Pyro, pulling a scroll out of his pants pocket. Or else I'll have to be your replacement in the Neo Swordsman. Don't insult my skills, Pyro-san, said Haku, calmly walking into the ring. I was trained by Zabuza-sama after all. Meh, y'all only did that to impress Naruto ni-san, said Pyro, unraveling the scroll and placing some blood on it. Zabuza-sama couldn't have gotten ya to train otherwise. And not true, yelled Haku, blushing furiously before she threw a few senbon at Pyro, all of which he nimbly dodged. I trained to fight, so you can impress ni-san, said Pyro, ducking as the decapitator slashed where his head was moments ago. Hey Yachiru-chan, what are they talking about? Asked Naruto, knowing on Dakubabu's bandages in boredom. What does impressing me have to do with anything? I dunno, said Yachiru, looking up at Naruto before grimacing slightly. Damn, haven't grown an inch in all these years. I think Ken-chan said it had to do with getting you inside of something. Well, I still don't get it, said the confused blonde, scratching his neck and yawning as Haku sent Pyro sailing past with a solid blow from the broadside of the decapitator. Give up, Pyro-san, said Haku calmly after regaining her composure. I haven't even used demonic ice mirrors and you're still losing. No thanks, Haku-chan, said Pyro, placing the scroll on the ground in front of him. 'Cause I haven't started fighting for real yet either. Kachiyose no jutsu. As soon as he said those words, the scroll exploded into a huge cloud of black smoke. I practiced hard to learn this technique and now it's time to reveal it, called Pyro from within his smokescreen. Now behold, Kachiyose, 9 sword gods. Suddenly 2 massive figures burst from the smoke and locked swords with Haku. Grimacing slightly, Haku leapt back out of their swords' range. The creatures simply placed their swords on their shoulders and stood there, giving everyone a chance to examine them. They both had bandages covering most of their bodies, with only their black-skinned heads truly visible, leaning happily against their massive cleavers. One grinned slightly at her, revealing a set of sea blue teeth which were heavily offset by its squinty silver eyes. Slowly the smoke cleared, revealing Pyro examining the scroll carefully from the shoulder of another identical creature. You know, that didn't do what it was supposed to, he muttered in annoyance as he rolled up the scroll and put it back into one of his pockets. There were supposed to be 9 different swordsmen, not 3 identical ones. Sorry bossa, the 9 gods need more chakra than that, said one, waving its sword around. Yeah, but we be enough for this little girl, said another, charging Haku, causing her to jump back further. Don't underestimate me, beast, said Haku, cutting off the beast arm with the decapitator. Or you'll be defeated. Her eyes suddenly went wide in surprise as the other sword beast appeared behind her and slammed both of its small boulder hands over her head. Grabbing her, the beast flung her into the nearest wall where the next beast was waiting with its blade ready. Quickly Haku summoned her chakra and created an ice mirror just in time to save her head from leaving her body. Not bad, she panted as she emerged on the roof of the school. Only gets better, girly, said the now one-armed beast, slamming the blunt side of its blade into her face. Enough, ref, call the match. screamed a girl from the crowd as Haku began to fall to the ground. She's already lost. Oh right, stuttered the instructor before Naruto stopped him. Haku has just won, let the match continue for now. The blonde said grimly. But, just watch, said a purple-haired boy from beside him. And then you'll see, if you say so, Rinmara-san, said the ref eyeing the small boy worriedly. Ha, give up Haku-chan and I'll catch ya, said Piro waving at the falling girl. There is no need, said Haku holding decapitator to Piro's throat as the water clone exploded. After all I won. Ah, now this cold Haku-chan, said Piro dispersing his summons. Ye never told me ya clones could use ya mirrors too. And you never said you could summon guardians, so we're even, said Haku calmly, walking back into the crowd, until Naruto ran out of it and grabbed her. Awesome Haku-ne-san, you'll have to fight me sometime, he said, ignoring her, blushing. You can do that after the school matches are over, said the instructor wearily. So anyways, it is my official declaration that you both pass. What? Yelled Haku and Piro at the same time, one in joy, one in despair. But he lost, yelled Haku, losing her cool and breaking out of Naruto's grasp. He can't pass. Why not? He did well in the battle with you, said the instructor in annoyance. Because he's the only one with worse grades than Naruto. Because he's a liability, she yelled angrily. Ah, don't worry Haku-chan, said the clownish boy running up to her. I'll take good care of ya. Arg, screamed Haku, storming off. In one of those few moments she lost her cool. I'm gonna go comfort the dear princess, said Piro happily, running after her, a maneuver most were smart enough to avoid doing. Oddly enough, he was the only one who could ever get away with this alive. In a far-off tree, $10 says they get married when they grow up, said a certain red-headed giant, watching the proceedings through a pair of binoculars. You're on, said a bandaged man beside him. She'd never lower herself to that level. What about you, Kisame-ni-san, want in? Asked the redhead to a shark who was sitting nearby. No thanks, said Kisame, sighing. I'm not getting involved with this. Okay then, said Mora, looking back through his binoculars. What? Screamed Kisame, pouncing on Mora. What is your problem? Nothing, I was just wondering something, said the red-headed man, grinning. What the hell's a shark doing in a tree? Shut up, Mora. Alright kids, time for the next match, said the referee, looking down at his list. Alright, next match, Medri Okina vs Serena Romies. Who's Medri? Asked Serena, a short girl with a blue bandana covering her brown hair. I ain't ever heard of her. I keep to myself, said a tall girl with white hair, walking forward. After all, why should I waste time on weaklings like you when I can be training? Wow, she's a bit of a bitch, huh? Asked Yachiru, frowning at the girl's attitude. Well, she has a good attitude about training, said an extremely tall green-haired boy, walking up behind them, wearing nothing other than a pair of gray sweatpants. Train all day with no relationships and you will no doubt be strong. Until you fight a real human, said Naruto, frowning. What do you mean, Naruto-san? Asked the green-haired boy, fiddling with two zigzagging swords strapped to his waist. That Role-san, whispered Yachiru, leaning in towards the green-haired boy, is the result of Dakubibu giving Aka-Aka-kun good information his whole career. Begin, yelled the teacher, breaking all the students out of their individual conversations. I suggest you surrender, said Medri, grinning at her opponent. No one is stronger than me in this class, not even the Neo swordsman. Not a chance, said Serena, throwing a large amount of shuriken at Medri, most of which she was unable to dodge. Eck, the Medri grunted, flying back a few feet. How did you hit me? I spent too much time dodging training shuriken thrown at 100 miles per hour. There's no way you can hit me. No talking, yelled Serena, jumping over Medri and grabbing her hair. Your opponent won't strike up conversation, won't usually start up idle conversation in a fight. Gripping the pale girl's hair tightly, Serena pulled as hard as she could and threw Medri forward over her shoulder and slammed her into the ground. Turning, she mimicked the move on the other side, pulling Medri over her shoulder, screaming in pain, and slamming her into the ground. This brutal display continued for a few minutes, with Medri eventually not being able to scream anymore due to her throat being so hoarse. Finally, after what Naruto had counted to be exactly 3 minutes and 49 seconds, the wad of hair the Serena had been holding ripped out of Medri's scalp, bringing some of the scalp with it. Naruto noticed many of the girls in the audience flinch when this happened, and he himself, the so-called bedmate of pain, couldn't help but have his heart go out to the girl, even if it was her own fault for thinking she was unbeatable even though she hadn't fought a real human being before. "Why you bitch, I'm going to kill you," screamed Medri, clutching the bleeding area of her scalp. Forming several hand seals, the screaming girl threw a shuriken at Serena which duplicated into around 20 after a few seconds. "Water release. Water shuriken clones. Sad," was all Serena muttered, blocking all of the shuriken with great ease. "How come they didn't hit you?" screamed Medri, charging forward holding a single kunai. "I blocked you, ghostly freak," said Serena calmly as she made some hand seals. "Earth release. Bloody sarcophagus." As soon as she finished, she slammed her foot into the ground and released a very large amount of killer intent, enough to make everyone but the teacher and the neo-swordsman freeze in place. After a few seconds, two massive hollow half-spheres came out of the ground and encased Medri. Not a sound came out of the rocks for a few minutes until suddenly they fell apart to reveal a stone replica of Medri in a very humiliating pose. "I win," said Serena, grinning as she walked out of the ring. "Hey Teach, can you call the match? The winner by kill is Serena Romies, and though we frown on killing your classmates, you still pass," said the teacher, frowning at the girl as she walked off and sat under one of the trees behind the group. "Do you want to let her corpse out of the statue now?" "Yeah, Serena, I doubt her parents want a statue of their daughter doing that," said Naruto, stuffing 2 pieces of Kleenex in his nose as most of the other boys did the same. "They'd probably like what's inside less," said Serena, smiling grimly. "And before anyone jumps on my case, I killed her because she was a liability to the village. With her current attitude, she would have betrayed us the first chance she got if it meant better training." "How unfortunately true," muttered Naruto, turning back to the teacher. "So let's have the next match." "Fine, but someone needs to move the statue." "Tree. Wow, that was pretty gruesome," said Kisame, licking his lips. "Never thought I'd see a newbie be that willing to kill. You want gruesome, you should have seen the nosebleed you got when that statue came out," snickered Mora. "Like you have room to talk, you perv. I couldn't tell what was darker, red, your hair or that puddle of blood on the ground," growled Kisame. "Shut up, you idiots, I can't concentrate with you arguing like that," yelled Zabuza angrily. "Hey Zabuza, better change you bandages, all that red makes your face look like a target," said Kisame as Mora fell out of the tree laughing. Much later at the academy. "Well, that concludes the normal matches," said Boro, folding up the sheet that held the matchups for the normal students. "Now if all the people observing will back up a whole lot, we'll begin the Neo-Swordsman's matches." Waiting while all the students ran back a suitable distance, about 30 yards, Boro then cleared his throat and announced the first match. The first Neo-Swordsman match will be Yachiru Kusajishi vs Rinmara Kurasuki. The competitors may start when they are ready. "So I have to fight Boshi Ni-san?" asked Yachiru, hanging her head in sorrow before standing up and dashing to the ring just as Rinmara did the same. "I wanted to fight Akaaka Ni-san." "Too bad," said Rinmara, giving the girl a small smile. "But keep your mind in the match, I'm no weakling." "Ready?" asked Boro before receiving nods from each of the combatants. "Then begin," he yelled, jumping away. Blood Pixie of the Hidden Mist Yachiru vs Seer of the Hidden Mist Rinmara. Immediately the two sword fighters drew their blades and lunged at each other, creating a shower of sparks as the two deadly weapons clashed. On one side was Yachiru's pink standard katana, while on the other was Rinmara's specially crafted dual-pronged blades. Jumping back, the two combatants charged again, only this time Rinmara dodged to the side and cut Yachiru shallowly on the arm. Landing, he stabbed his blade into the ground and spun to kick Yachiru, who the girl dodged only to be struck by his other foot. "This is a one-sided fight, Naruto-kun," said Dakubibu worriedly. "Yachiru-chan can't win if Rinmara can predict her every move. She'll have to blind him," thought Naruto, wincing as Rinmara scored a series of blows on Yachiru, sending her stumbling and bleeding back. "Give up, Yachiru-chan," said Rinmara, frowning. "Even you can see that you don't stand a chance against me." "See," gasped Yachiru. "That's right, see." Quickly the pink-haired swordswoman threw down several smoke bombs which, after exploding, filled the area with a thick haze of pink smoke. The technique caused Rinmara to blink several times. "I know you haven't trained with me that much, Yachiru Ni-san, but even you should know that won't work," said the purple-headed boy, shaking his head. "I can see through smoke." "I know that," said Yachiru, flowing through several hand seals. That's why it's not smoke but my special crystal powder. Finally she finished on the ram seal and Naruto shielded his eyes when he realized what she was going to do. Yachiru's special technique, pink flash. She quickly covered her eyes as several flash tags were launched out of her sleeves. Shit, yelled Rinmara, going to shield his eyes a few seconds too late. The battlefield quickly lit up in a bright pink glow as the light from the exploding flash tags refracted off the pink crystals in the air, increasing its brightness and changing its color to pink. As everyone's vision cleared, they all noted that Rinmara was unconscious on the ground, with Yachiru standing over him covered in her own blood. "I win," she muttered as she fell to the ground, passing out from blood loss. "Interesting, that looked like Naruto's orange flash," said Kisame, blinking out the dots in his vision. "You know, the one he used to beat Rinmara the fourth time they fought." "I think that was the point, kiss me Ni-san," said Zabuza, wrapping his eyes up in bandages. "Hey, where did Mora Ni-san go?" He was surprised and jumped up in the air, where he hit his head on a branch and fell out of the tree. "Something's wrong with that guy, he's fallen out of the tree 20 times today, for everything from surprise to slipping on the puddle of blood that came out of his nose last match," sighed Kisame. "Do you think he's okay?" asked Zabuza, leaning back against the trunk of the tree. "Do either of us care?" questioned the shark ninja, raising a non-existent eyebrow. "I didn't think so." With, as expected, both swordsmen passing, we will now continue to the next round, said Boro as both the unconscious fighters were dragged off the field by their classmates. "Now then, the next match will be Bondi Shimmick against Jita Odaswashi." "Interesting, it seems these fights were well thought out," said a tall, lanky, bald-headed black-skinned boy standing up and stepping into the battle area. He had an odd dress style, though looking at how some people dressed in Mist, he was probably only a bit off the normal. He had a heavy tan full-body shirt that hung all the way to his ankles. From what Naruto understood, he wore nothing under other than a heavy suit of armor exemplified by his metal shoes. At his side rested his blade Typhon, a long, thin, straight blade with tiny animal skulls hanging off the hilt. On the blade itself were many carvings of various gruesome scenes, ranging from a man getting eaten by Onigumo to a woman being crushed by the foot of a giant. "Seems you won't be getting an easy fight, Naruto Ni-san," said Jita, a tall, pale-skinned girl who wore a flowery kimono. At her side was her own sword Hamfret, a sword whose very blade was made of a massive diamond. Naruto faintly wondered what would happen when his compatriots' swords were completed. So far he was aware that the only completed swords of the Neo swordsmen were his own Rinmaras and Bondis. He couldn't wait to see if they'd get some cool abilities like his. "But they'll never get anything as strong as Dakubibu," he mentally yelled, grinning. "Damn straight, Naruto-kun," yelled Dakubibu back. "There's no sword in the world that can beat me." "The fights are starting," thought Naruto, instantly quieting the sword spirit. "Begin," yelled Boro, jumping back. Black Dragon of the Hidden Mist Bondi versus Empress of the Hidden Mist Jita. "This fight might as well be over," said Bondi, unsheathing Typhon. "Jita Ne-san better surrender or she might burn." Spinning, he launched a jet of black fire out of the sword straight at Jita's head. Dodging to the side, Jita threw several shuriken at her opponent, followed by several more in their shadow. All of her projectiles were immediately incinerated and she was forced to dodge 2 more jets of flame. "This won't end well for her," thought Naruto, taking his eyes off the fight to look at the sky, finding it cloudy as usual. "She can't use most of her jutsu without the sunlight. Maybe she took a hint from when you beat her last time and learned some new ones," thought Dakubibu. "Back out of this one, Jita Ne-san," said Bondi. "You know as well as I do that the sun is your weapon, and to be frank, the sun is not here." "Sorry, Bondi Ni-san," said Jita, flashing through some hand seals. "But I don't take losing well. Water release. Geyser calling." Bondi was immediately thrown up in the air as a jet of boiling water exploded from the ground beneath him. Flashing through one more hand seal, she called out her next move. Water release. Mizu Bushin. The water spewing from the ground suddenly turned into a tower of Jita replicas that all leapt after Bondi as he fell from the sky. "Too little too late," said Bondi simply. As soon as the first clone got within a yard of him, he launched a jet of black lightning bolts into it, causing it to explode, which in turn sprayed the clones around it with electrified water droplets, causing it to explode and continue the chain reaction until they reached the ground, where it followed the trail of water on the ground all the way back to Jita, who had no time to dodge, where it electrocuted her. Damn, and I tried so hard to. She said, grinning as she passed out on the ground. And you did well, said Bondi, landing on the ground. Boro-sensei, I believe that she deserves another chance to prove herself. She was too limited today by the lack of sunlight with which to perform her proper attacks. No doubt Mizukage-sama will agree, sighed Boro, walking over and checking the loser's pulse. Bondi, you might want to take her to the hospital to make sure she comes out fine. Of course, sensei, said the boy, walking over to the girl and slinging her over his shoulder. Good luck with your match, Naruto-ni-san, Role-ni-san, he said, walking off. You didn't even try, did you? Asked Naruto, grinning. My sword and my Kekkei Genkai gave me too much of an advantage, said the dark-skinned boy simply. That Bondi kid is brutally strong, isn't he? Said Kisame, watching Bondi as he carried Jita towards the hospital. You can tell he is Sani's son. You want brutal? Asked Mora, shaking his head lightly. Wait till you see what my boy does to Naruto-kun. Just because Role has no chakra and is thus immune to Naruto's indirect poisoning doesn't mean he's going to win, said Kisame, kicking Mora out of the tree. Naruto ain't dumb enough to just focus on poison fighting. Well then, Naruto, thought Zabuza, ignoring the squabbling duo beside him. Let's see how much you've improved. Next match I don't need to say, because as ninja you need to at least be able to figure out the obvious, said Boro, snickering at his joke. Combatants in the ring, please. This is the perfect challenge, you know, said Naruto causally to Role. This is the first time I've fought you since our first match. You lost that one and you'll lose this one, said Role, grinning. My lack of chakra makes me immune to all your techniques. I still have Kyuubi's chakra, said Naruto. That will get you disqualified, snickered Role. Oh dear, that means that I'll have to beat you with my own skills, cried Naruto sarcastically. Here's a hint, Role. I took my own advice and I don't just rely on Dakubibu anymore. So you think you can beat me in a physical fight? Asked Role, drawing his swords. No one can beat me in physical strength, nobody. Suddenly his eyes turned white and he lunged at Naruto. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.